Nestled within the labyrinthine halls of Asteroid Belt Station 27, file clerk Ethan Drake shuffled through the latest digital archives. His tall frame, awkwardly hunched over the interface terminal, seemed at odds with the image of a hero. At 28, Ethan was a man of contradictions, brilliant but uninspired, ambitious but apathetic. A massive mining outpost orbiting within the belt had reduced him to a cog in the unyielding corporate machinery of TerraCorp, the Earth's largest resource conglomerate. Ethan's days were filled with monotony, updating mineral quotas, signing off transportation logs, and avoiding the wrath of his overbearing supervisor, Gerald Yates. His colleagues dismissed him as a nobody, but in the quiet moments, Ethan's mind wandered to the past, where he had once been a prodigy in engineering and theoretical physics. That potential had been buried beneath years of complacency and self-doubt. The galaxy was vast and teeming with life, yet for Ethan, it felt unbearably small. Humanity, despite its technological advancements, was the galaxy's weakest species. The Sci-Fi Coalition, an interstellar alliance of warlike races, dismissed humans as fragile opportunists, and they weren't entirely wrong. Humanity's strategy for survival revolved around diplomacy and trade. Not physical or military dominance, yet ironically, humanity was also the most feared. The humdrum of the station's routine was shattered one fateful morning, when alarms blared throughout its corridors. Ethan's console lit up with an urgent message from Central Command. Sci-Fi Coalition forces detected. Evacuate immediately. Panic erupted as personnel scrambled to their evacuation pods. Through the viewport, Ethan saw an ominous fleet of Sci-Fi warships emerging from the inky void. These were the Clivics, the most aggressive faction of the Coalition. Their bulbous, chitinous ships were bristling with plasma cannons and shields weapons designed to devastate entire planets. Ethan froze, unsure of what to do, as others fled. His analytical mind began processing the situation. The Clivics wouldn't waste resources attacking a mining station unless it held strategic importance. Realizing the station's central processing unit contained valuable TerraCorp mining algorithms and defense codes, Ethan decided he couldn't leave it for the enemy to exploit. With trembling hands, he initiated the station's self-destruct sequence and encrypted the files. However, his actions did not go unnoticed. A Zephyr boarding party breached the station before the countdown could complete. Ethan was cornered, his survival instincts kicking in for the first time in years. Using nothing but his quick wit and a maintenance drone, he managed to trap the invaders long enough to escape aboard a cargo shuttle. Ethan's shuttle drifted into the protective sphere of Sol Command, the military arm of humanity's interstellar defense. Automated systems detected his unauthorized approach, and within minutes, he was intercepted by patrol crafts. His shuttle was brought aboard the HSS Vanguard, one of Sol Command's smaller frigates. Disoriented and still reeling from his narrow escape, Ethan found himself in a stark, windowless interrogation room. The door slid open, and in walked Commander Lila Vaughn, her presence commanding yet calm. Her uniform was pristine, her bearing one of complete authority. She placed a slim datapad on the metal table and sat across from Ethan, her piercing green eyes locking onto his. "You're telling me you single-handedly delayed a Zephyr assault and destroyed critical data to protect the station?" she asked, her tone measured but skeptical. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "I didn't have a choice. If they got their hands on that data," he trailed off, rubbing the back of his neck. "It wasn't heroism. I just couldn't let them get it." Commander Vaughn studied him for a moment longer before leaning back. "You're a civilian, no military training, yet you managed to outmaneuver Zephyr forces and escape with your life. Either you're extremely lucky, or you're more capable than you let on." Ethan frowned. "I'm not a soldier, if that's what you're getting at." "No," Vaughn said, leaning forward. "But you could be." Commander Vaughn presented Ethan with a stark choice: enlist in Sol Command's military training program, or face charges for tampering with classified systems. Ethan balked at the idea of becoming a soldier. The very thought of stepping into the chaos he had just escaped seemed unthinkable, but the alternative, a lifetime in prison for hacking TerraCorp systems, was equally bleak. After a long silence, he nodded reluctantly. "All right, he'll do it," Vaughn smirked faintly. "Good, let's see if your actions were more than a fluke." Training begins. Ethan's first weeks in basic training were grueling. The rigid structure, physical demands, and relentless pace were worlds away from his previous life of corporate drudgery. His lanky frame and years of sedentary work made him a prime target for mockery among the recruits, especially from Sergeant Marek Quinn, a grizzled veteran who seemed to delight in pushing Ethan to his limits. "You think you're too smart to follow orders, Drake?" Quinn barked during an obstacle course. "Let's see your brain get you over that wall." Ethan gritted his teeth and pushed himself harder, his body aching and his lungs burning. But as the weeks went on, something began to change. His mind, always sharp, adapted to the strategic elements of training. He excelled in simulations, outperforming even seasoned recruits in tactical scenarios. When the others struggled with the complexities of zero-gravity combat, Ethan's analytical approach allowed him to thrive. Ethan's turning point came during a live-fire exercise designed to simulate a Clivex ambush. The recruits were divided into squads, tasked with defending a makeshift base against relentless waves of drone attacks. As chaos erupted around him, Ethan quickly assessed the terrain and enemy patterns. "We're bottlenecked here," he shouted to his squad mates, pointing to a narrow choke point. "We need to redirect the drones into that corridor and hit them with crossfire." Though hesitant at first, his squad followed his lead. The strategy worked flawlessly, and their squad emerged as the only one to complete the exercise without casualties. Even Sergeant Quinn begrudgingly gave Ethan a nod of approval. By the end of training, Ethan's transformation was undeniable. His physique had hardened, his confidence had grown, and his tactical prowess had made him a standout recruit. Commander Vorn took notice and assigned him to an advanced program for strategic operations, a role that would place him at the forefront of humanity's fight against the Zifar coalition. Ethan boarded the shuttle to his next posting, staring out at the stars. He was no longer the meek file clerk from Asteroid Belt Station 27. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of purpose. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that his journey was only beginning. The Clivex invasion marked the start of a galactic war. Their strategy was ruthless: seize the Sol system, enslave humanity, and plunder Earth's resources. Entire colonies fell before humanity had a chance to rally its defenses. And the stark reality of the Zyfar's brutality became undeniable. But humanity was not as weak as they believed. Ethan's first deployment was aboard the HSS Resolute, a state-of-the-art battleship designed for deep space warfare. Its corridors buzzed with the activity of soldiers, engineers, and strategists working tirelessly to prepare for humanity's counterattack. Ethan, initially assigned to logistics, quickly found opportunities to demonstrate his keen intellect. His knack for pattern recognition caught the attention of Admiral Marcus Hale, a battle-hardened leader with a reputation for unorthodox tactics. "You've got a knack for seeing patterns others miss," Admiral Hale noted during a strategy briefing. "We're going to need that if we're to outsmart the Clivex." Under Hale's mentorship, Ethan's potential blossomed. He was quickly promoted to the ship's tactical team, where he proposed unconventional strategies that leveraged humanity's greatest strengths: adaptability and ingenuity. His plans often involved psychological warfare, exploiting the Clivex overconfidence and rigid hierarchies. Ethan's defining moment came during the Battle of Proxima Centauri, where the Clivex sought to establish a forward base to launch deeper incursions into human territory. The stakes were immense. Losing Proxima would mean leaving Earth vulnerable to direct attack. Outnumbered and outgunned, humanity's fleet seemed destined for defeat. Morale among the troops was at an all-time low as the Clivex armada loomed closer. Ethan analyzed the battlefield, poring over sensor data and fleet positions. The Clivex ships, though heavily armed, adhered to rigid formations that prioritized overwhelming firepower at the expense of mobility. Spotting an opportunity, Ethan devised a daring strategy, luring the Clivex into a dense asteroid field rigged with experimental cloaked mines. "If we can bait them into the field and detonate the mines at the right moment, we'll force their fleet into disarray," Ethan explained to the command staff. Admiral Hale's weathered face lit up with approval. "It's risky," Hale admitted, "but it's the kind of risk we need to take." The plan was executed with precision. A small contingent of human ships feigned retreat, drawing the Clivex into the minefield. Once the enemy fleet was entangled, the mines detonated, causing catastrophic damage. The Clivex, caught off guard, scrambled to regroup, but humanity's forces pressed the advantage, delivering a decisive counterattack that obliterated their armada. The victory at Proxima Centauri was a turning point. Humanity had not only survived, but had demonstrated that they could outthink and outmaneuver one of the galaxy's most feared war machines. Ethan's name became synonymous with the unexpected might of humanity, and his reputation as a tactical genius spread across the Allied forces. The victory also had ripple effects beyond the battlefield. Oppressed species across the galaxy, emboldened by humanity's success, began to reach out with offers of alliance. Ethan found himself not only a strategist, but also a diplomat, working to build coalitions with races that had long suffered under Sci-Fi domination. His humility and pragmatism made him a natural leader in these delicate negotiations. Through these alliances, humanity gained access to new technologies, resources, and insights that would prove invaluable in the battles to come. Ethan's role expanded as he coordinated joint operations, blending the unique strengths of each allied species into a cohesive fighting force. Humanity was no longer fighting alone. With the resounding victory at Proxima Centauri, humanity's confidence surged. Ethan, now heralded as a tactical genius, was promoted to strategic operations specialist aboard the HSS Resolute, where he played a central role in planning humanity's counteroffensive against the Sci-Fi coalition's next wave of attacks. Ethan's newfound responsibilities meant longer hours spent in strategic briefings, analyzing battle reports, and coordinating with allied species. The Sci-Fi coalition, stunned by their loss at Proxima, began adapting their tactics. Where brute force once defined their strategy, they now employed deception and misdirection. Their new strategy was evident during the siege of Epsilon 4, where a diversionary attack nearly cost humanity a critical colony. Ethan devised a countermeasure, a fleet of decoy ships equipped with advanced holographic technology. These vessels could mimic the appearance and energy signatures of humanity's warships, confusing the Sci-Fi's sensors. The decoy fleet successfully diverted the Sci-Fi's main force, allowing Allied forces to defend Epsilon 4 and drive the attackers back. The Allied species under humanity's leadership began to integrate their unique technologies into a singular, formidable coalition fleet. The Tarkans contributed advanced cyber warfare tools capable of disabling Sci-Fi ships mid-battle, while the Valrak, a nomadic warrior race, shared their unparalleled close-quarters combat expertise. Growing tensions. Ethan's ability to unite these disparate groups into a cohesive force earned him widespread respect, but it also placed immense pressure on him. As alliances strengthened, so did the internal challenges of managing centuries-old grudges between species. Meetings often devolved into arguments as old wounds resurfaced. Ethan's diplomacy skills were tested daily as he worked to maintain unity in the face of their shared enemy. These tensions came to a head during the planning of the Battle of Arcturus, a pivotal engagement that would determine control over a vital star system. The Sci-Fi had fortified the system with heavily armed stations, daring humanity and its allies to approach. Ethan's strategy was unorthodox. He proposed using Valrak stealth ships to infiltrate the system and sabotage the Zephyr defenses from within, followed by a massive coordinated assault. The plan sparked heated debates among the coalition leaders. Some doubted the Valrak's willingness to take on such a dangerous mission, while others questioned the strategy's reliance on precision timing. Ethan spent hours convincing them, highlighting how every species' unique strengths would contribute to the operation's success. When the operation was finally approved, it became a defining moment for the coalition. The Valrak executed their part flawlessly, crippling the Zephyr's defenses and opening the path for the coalition fleet to strike. The battle was fierce with casualties on both sides, but the coalition emerged victorious, securing the Arcturus system and solidifying their unity. The victory at Arcturus was a testament to the coalition's potential, but it also revealed the cost of war. Ethan found himself haunted by the lives lost under his command, a burden that only grew heavier with each engagement. As the coalition prepared for its next moves, Ethan realized the war's true toll was only beginning to surface. As the coalition's victories grew, so did the challenges within its ranks. Tensions that had simmered between species now threatened to boil over, and Ethan found himself in the unenviable position of balancing battlefield strategy with political maneuvering. Ethan's ascension to a prominent role in the coalition was not without consequences. Among humanity's leadership, envy and resentment toward Ethan's unconventional methods began to surface. coupled with his reliance on diplomacy and alliances with alien species, alienated some high-ranking officials who viewed such alliances as unnecessary risks. One such adversary was Colonel Darius Locke, a decorated officer who had long advocated for humanity-first policies. Locke viewed Ethan's coalition building as a betrayal of humanity's potential dominance. "We don't need their technology, their warriors, or their interference," Locke argued in private meetings. "Humanity can win this war on its own." During preparations for the Battle of Vega 9, Ethan discovered discrepancies in intelligence reports regarding the Zephar's fleet movements. The information suggested a trap, but his concerns were dismissed by Colonel Locke, who insisted on an aggressive advance. Ethan, suspicious of Locke's motives, quietly diverted resources to investigate the discrepancies. The truth was damning. Locke had deliberately manipulated intelligence to undermine Ethan's strategy, hoping to discredit him with a costly defeat. Before Ethan could act, Locke preemptively accused him of recklessness, initiating a tribunal to question Ethan's leadership. The tribunal was a tense affair, held aboard the HSS Zenith, a flagship that symbolized humanity's unity. Ethan faced accusations ranging from overstepping his authority to endangering human lives by relying too heavily on alien allies. Locke presented himself as a patriot, claiming to represent humanity's best interests. Ethan's defense rested not on words but on evidence. With the help of Tarkin cyber operatives, he uncovered Locke's sabotage and presented irrefutable proof of the Colonel's duplicity. The revelation sent shockwaves through the coalition, resulting in Locke's arrest and court-martial. Though vindicated, the tribunal left Ethan shaken. The betrayal underscored the fragility of the coalition and the personal toll of leadership. His allies rallied around him, but the incident planted seeds of doubt. Could the coalition survive if humanity's own leaders were willing to undermine it for personal gain? Despite the political turmoil, the coalition pressed on toward Vega 9, a strategically vital system. Ethan refined his plans, incorporating insights from alien allies and ensuring that every move countered the Zephar's evolving tactics. The operation became a symbol of unity, with representatives from every allied species working in concert. The battle was fierce, marked by the Zephar's use of new biological weapons designed to incapacitate rather than kill. Ethan's quick thinking and adaptive strategies turned the tide, resulting in a resounding victory that not only secured Vega 9 but also reinforced the coalition's purpose. The victory at Vega 9 was bittersweet. The coalition's strength had been proven, but the internal divisions remained a stark reminder of the challenges ahead. Ethan, weary but resolute, vowed to confront these challenges head-on. He knew the road to peace would be paved with both triumphs and sacrifices, and that his journey was far from over. The victory at Vega 9 had bolstered the coalition's resolve, but the battle had also revealed lingering fractures. As Ethan prepared for the next phase of the war, he found himself grappling with challenges that threatened not only the coalition's unity, but also his own leadership. The Zephar's biological weapons had inflicted heavy casualties. Survivors faced lingering effects, both physical and psychological, that strained the coalition's medical resources. Ethan worked tirelessly to ensure that recovery efforts were equitable across species, a decision that earned him both admiration and criticism. In humanity's ranks, some soldiers resented the equal treatment of alien allies, demanding priority for human casualties. Ethan stood firm. "We win together, or we lose everything," he said in a broadcast to the coalition forces. His words carried weight, but resentment simmered beneath the surface. As the coalition celebrated its victory, reports began to emerge of a new Zephar strategy. Rather than engaging in direct conflict, the Zephyr had begun targeting supply lines and destabilizing liberated systems. Their goal was clear: to undermine the coalition's morale and force its members to question the value of unity. One such incident occurred on Phaler Prime, a Tarkin colony recently freed from Zephyr control. A covert operation by Zephyr saboteurs left the colony's infrastructure in ruins. Ethan dispatched a joint task force to assist in rebuilding, but the incident fueled fears that the Zephyr were becoming more unpredictable and dangerous. Ethan's role as the coalition's leader came under scrutiny during a summit held aboard the HSS Ascension, a newly commissioned capital ship designed to symbolize unity. Representatives from each allied species convened to discuss the war's progress and plan future operations. The summit quickly descended into chaos as old grievances resurfaced. The Valrak delegation accused humanity of arrogance, while the Tarkans criticized the Coalition's slow response to the Feeler Prime attack. Tensions peaked when Admiral Gorath, a Valrak war hero, challenged Ethan directly. "You ask us to trust your leadership," Gorath growled, his massive frame towering over the meeting table. "But trust is earned, not demanded. How do we know humanity won't abandon us when it's convenient?" Ethan met Gorath's gaze. "You don't," he admitted. "But I can promise you this: every decision I make, every risk I take, is for the survival of all of us. The Zephyr want us divided. If we let mistrust rule us, we've already lost." To prove his commitment, Ethan proposed a daring operation, a strike against Zinvaris, the Zephyr's logistical hub. Capturing Zinvaris would cripple the Zephyr's supply chains and give the Coalition a strategic foothold deep in enemy territory. The mission was ambitious and dangerous. The plan involved a two-pronged approach: a fleet assault to draw the Zephyr's forces away, and a stealth team to infiltrate the planet and sabotage its defense systems. Ethan volunteered to lead the infiltration team himself, a decision that shocked his advisors. "Your place is here, coordinating the Coalition," Commander Vaughn argued. "If something happens to you, I won't lead from the safety of a command ship while others risk their lives." Ethan interrupted. "If I'm asking them to trust me, I have to show them I'm willing to do the same." The infiltration team consisted of elite operatives from across the Coalition, each chosen for their unique skills. Among them was Sorik, a Tarkan hacker with a talent for bypassing Zephyr systems, and Krinar, a Valrak warrior whose strength was matched only by his loyalty. The mission began with a harrowing descent through Zinvaris' dense atmosphere. The team's stealth ship evaded detection, landing in a remote jungle outside the Zephyr stronghold. The journey to the defense systems was fraught with danger, as the team navigated hostile terrain and encountered Zephyr patrols. Ethan's leadership was put to the test during an ambush that left the team pinned down. Krinar, injured but defiant, urged Ethan to leave him behind. Ethan refused. "We all make it, or none of us do," he said, rallying the team to fight their way through the ambush. Reaching the defense systems, Sorik worked quickly to disable the planetary shields while the rest of the team held off waves of Zephyr reinforcements. The situation grew dire as more enemies arrived, but the Coalition fleet's timely arrival turned the tide. With the shields down, the fleet launched a devastating assault that destroyed Zinvaris' stronghold. The mission was a success, but it came at a cost. Several operatives were lost, and Ethan himself was wounded in the final skirmish. As he was evacuated aboard a Coalition ship, he reflected on the price of leadership and the sacrifices required to achieve victory. The capture of Zinvaris was a turning point in the war, showcasing the Coalition's strength and unity. Yet Ethan knew the battle for hearts and minds was far from over. The war had forged alliances, but it had also laid bare the vulnerabilities of trust and cooperation. As the Coalition prepared for its next moves, Ethan resolved to strengthen the bonds that held them together. "We've come this far because we dared to believe in something greater than ourselves," he said in a speech to the Coalition. "The Zephyr underestimated us. Let's make sure they never make that mistake again." The victory at Zinvaris sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Zephyr's stronghold, once thought invincible, lay in ruins, and their logistical network was in disarray. Yet, as the Coalition celebrated its triumph, Ethan found himself grappling with the weight of leadership and the uncertain path ahead. The battle had taken a heavy toll. Among the fallen were key operatives, whose sacrifices ensured the mission's success. Ethan spent hours drafting letters to their families, a task that left him drained and introspective. Each name etched into the Coalition's honor roll was a reminder of the war's Costa ledger balanced in blood and loss. For the Coalition, the aftermath of Zinvaris brought logistical challenges. The planet's infrastructure, critical for maintaining supply chains, required immediate stabilization. Allied engineers and scientists worked around the clock to repurpose Zephyr facilities for Coalition use, while Tarkans provided advanced cyber defenses to secure the newly captured data. Despite the victory, the Coalition's fragile unity was tested. The Valrak, emboldened by their role in the assault, demanded greater influence in military planning. The Tarkans, meanwhile, voiced concerns about the ethical implications of using captured Zephyr technology. These debates threatened to overshadow the Coalition's progress. Ethan convened a summit aboard the HSS Unity, a diplomatic ship designed to facilitate interspecies negotiations. The meeting was tense, with representatives airing grievances and accusing one another of selfish motives. "It's easy to celebrate when the blood spilled isn't your own," snarled Admiral Gorath, his Valrak pride bruised by perceived slights. Ethan intervened. "Every drop of blood spilled is a loss for all of us. If we let division define us, the Zifar have already won. We have to remember why we're here to fight for a future where none of us live in fear." His words, though firm, could not erase the undercurrents of tension. The coalition needed more than speeches, it needed action to rebuild trust. In an effort to solidify the coalition, Ethan proposed a joint operation to liberate Phalar Prime, a key Tarkin colony still under Zifar control. The mission would not only free an oppressed population, but also demonstrate the coalition's commitment to unity. The operation was a showcase of interspecies collaboration. Tarkin cyber operatives worked alongside Valrak shock troops, while human engineers provided innovative drone technology for reconnaissance. Ethan personally oversaw the mission, ensuring that every species' contributions were acknowledged. The liberation was a resounding success. The Zifar garrison, caught off guard by the coalition's coordinated assault, surrendered after days of intense fighting. Phalar Prime citizens, long subjugated under Zifar rule, welcomed the coalition as heroes. The success at Phalar Prime marked a turning point for the coalition. Relationships between species began to thaw as they saw the tangible benefits of working together. The Valrak, once skeptical of humanity's leadership, acknowledged Ethan's commitment to the cause, while the Tarkans shared more of their advanced technology to bolster the coalition's efforts. Ethan took this opportunity to propose the Coalition Accord, a framework for shared governance and mutual defense. The Accord outlined principles for resource allocation, military strategy, and post-war reconstruction, ensuring that no single species could dominate the coalition. Though some representatives hesitated, the Accord was ultimately signed aboard the HSS Unity, symbolizing a renewed commitment to the coalition's ideals. As the coalition solidified, the Zifar began employing more desperate tactics. Reports surfaced of Project Dreadspire, a secret Zifar initiative rumored to involve experimental weapons capable of destroying entire planets. The coalition's intelligence network scrambled to verify the information. Knowing that the stakes had never been higher, Ethan's focus shifted to uncovering the truth behind Dreadspire. He authorized reconnaissance missions deep into Zifar-controlled space, risking lives to gather intelligence. The information trickling in painted a grim picture. The Zifar, cornered and desperate, were willing to unleash catastrophic force to regain the upper hand. Ethan's resolve hardened as he addressed the coalition. "The Zifar think their desperation will break us. They believe their fearsome weapons will scatter us. But they've forgotten one thing: we've faced the impossible before, and we've prevailed. Together, we'll face whatever comes next, and we'll win." The coalition began mobilizing for what would undoubtedly be the war's most dangerous chapter. Resources were redirected towards strengthening defenses, while scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to counter the Zifar's new technology. Ethan, standing on the precipice of the unknown, knew the coming battles would test the coalition's unity and his own leadership as never before. But for the first time, he felt the stirrings of hope, a belief that the coalition's shared vision could withstand even the darkest storm. As whispers of Project Dreadspire spread throughout the coalition, a sense of unease settled over its members. The Zifar's rumored weapon threatened to undo every hard-fought victory, casting a shadow over the fragile alliances Ethan had worked so tirelessly to build. Intelligence gathered from covert operations painted a harrowing picture of Dreadspire. It was no mere weapon, it was a mobile planetary destroyer, a massive station capable of obliterating entire worlds. Its design fused advanced Zifar engineering with stolen technology, including components reverse-engineered from captured coalition assets. Ethan called an emergency council aboard the HSS Unity, gathering representatives from every allied species. The atmosphere was tense as Admiral Marcus Hale presented the coalition's findings. "Dreadspire isn't just a threat to humanity or the coalition," Hale said. "It's a declaration of total war. If the Zifar deploy it, no system will be safe." The council erupted into debate. The Valrak urged an immediate strike, while the Tarkans advocated for caution, fearing that rushing in without a plan could result in catastrophic losses. Ethan listened intently, his mind racing to balance the coalition's diverse perspectives. Ethan proposed a bold strategy: infiltrate Dreadspire before its full deployment, and disable its core systems. The mission would require precision and cooperation, as the Zephyr would undoubtedly guard their weapon with their most formidable forces. The plan called for 2 simultaneous operations. 1. Fleet diversion. The Coalition's combined fleets would launch a large-scale assault on a nearby Zephyr stronghold, drawing their attention away from Dreadspire. 2. Infiltration team. A small, elite group would infiltrate Dreadspire itself, sabotage its systems, and plant explosives to neutralize the weapon permanently. Ethan volunteered to lead the infiltration team. Though his advisors protested, he remained resolute. This isn't just a mission, it's a message. If we succeed, we show the galaxy that no weapon, no threat can break us. The fleet diversion was launched with precision. Coalition ships, bolstered by advanced Valrak shielding and Tarkin cyber warfare systems, engaged the Zephyr in a fierce battle. As the Zephyr scrambled to defend their stronghold, Ethan's infiltration team slipped through, their defenses aboard a cloak transport. The team included veterans from previous missions: Krynar, the formidable Valrak warrior Sorik, the Tarkin hacker, and Lila Vaughn, whose tactical expertise had been invaluable throughout the war. Together, they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of Dreadspire, evading patrols and disabling security systems. Inside the station, they encountered horrors that underscored the Zephyr's desperation. Genetic experiments and weaponized organisms filled containment chambers, testaments to the Zephyr's willingness to cross every moral line in their quest for domination. As the team approached the core, they were ambushed by Zephyr warlord Krathvar, the architect of Dreadspire. Towering and clad in bioengineered armor, Krathvar was a living weapon, embodying the Zephyr's relentless aggression. The battle was brutal. Krynar held the line against Krathvar's devastating strikes, while Ethan and Vaughn coordinated an attack to exploit the warlord's vulnerabilities. Sorik worked frantically to disable the core's defenses, racing against time as the battle raged. In a final, desperate move, Ethan used a stolen Zephyr neural interface to overload Krathvar's armor, leaving him vulnerable to Krynar's killing blow. The victory was hard-won, and the team emerged battered but determined. Reaching Dreadspire's core, the team planted charges to destroy the station. Sorik bypassed the final security protocols, ensuring that the explosives would detonate in sequence to collapse the entire structure. As the team prepared to escape, an alarm blared throughout the station. The Zephyr had discovered the sabotage, and reinforcements swarmed toward the core. Ethan and Vaughn held them off while Krynar carried an injured Sorik to the extraction point. "Go!" Ethan shouted to Vaughn as the explosives countdown neared 0. "He'll cover you." Vaughn hesitated but obeyed, knowing there was no time to argue. Ethan's blast of fire echoed through the corridors as he fought to buy precious seconds for the team's escape. The infiltration team's transport blasted out of Dreadspire moments before the charges detonated. The station erupted in a blinding explosion, its destruction visible even from the Coalition fleet's vantage point. The Zephyr forces, demoralized and disoriented, began to retreat. Back aboard the HSS Ascension, the Coalition celebrated the mission's success. Ethan, injured but alive, received a hero's welcome. Yet, as he stood before the cheering crowd, he felt a profound sense of exhaustion. The destruction of Dreadspire was a decisive blow to the Zephyr. But Ethan knew the war was far from over. The Coalition's unity had been tested and proven, but the scars of battle lingered. Each victory came with its price, and the shadow of war loomed ever larger. As the Coalition prepared for its next moves, Ethan resolved to fight not just for survival, but for a future where alliances forged in war could endure in peace. The destruction of Dreadspire sent a shockwave through the Zephyr Coalition, forcing their high command into disarray. Yet in their desperation, the Zephyr's retaliation came swift and brutal, targeting not just military assets, but civilian populations in Coalition-controlled territories. The war entered its darkest phase, testing the Coalition's resolve and Ethan's leadership as never before. Within weeks of Dreadspire's destruction, the Zephyr launched a series of coordinated attacks across the Coalition's territories. These were not mere skirmishes, they were scorched earth campaigns aimed at terrorizing civilian populations and crippling the Coalition's supply chains. One such attack targeted Haran Fu, a human colony world that had recently joined the Coalition. The Zephyr unleashed orbital bombardments, reducing entire cities to rubble and leaving millions homeless. Survivors flooded Coalition-controlled space, overwhelming humanitarian efforts. Ethan convened an emergency meeting aboard the HSS Unity, bringing together the Coalition's leaders to devise a response. The Zephyr are not just trying to win this war, they're trying to break our spirit, Ethan said. If we don't act decisively, they will succeed. The escalation of civilian casualties strained the Coalition's unity. The Valrak demanded immediate counterstrikes against Zephyr strongholds, while the Tarkans argued for prioritizing defense and humanitarian aid. The human delegation, still reeling from the destruction of Heron IV, called for a balanced approach. Ethan found himself at the center of a heated debate, struggling to keep the Coalition focused. "We cannot abandon our principles in the face of fear," he said. "If we lose sight of what we're fighting for, the Zephyr have already won." The Coalition eventually agreed on a two-pronged strategy, a military counteroffensive to push the Zephyr back, coupled with a massive relief effort to assist displaced civilians. Ethan took personal responsibility for coordinating both efforts, stretching himself thin as he worked to maintain the Coalition's fragile balance. The Coalition's counteroffensive, codenamed Operation Iron Star, targeted a critical Zephyr shipyard in the Delta Pixis system. The shipyard, responsible for producing the Zephyr's advanced warships, was heavily fortified and considered nearly impenetrable. Ethan devised a daring plan to infiltrate the shipyard using stolen Zephyr codes and a cloaked Valrak strike ship. The infiltration team, led by Ethan and Commander Lila Vorn, would sabotage the shipyard's production facilities while the Coalition fleet engaged Zephyr forces in the surrounding space. The operation began with a precision strike by the Coalition fleet, drawing the Zephyr's defenses away from the shipyard. Ethan's team slipped past the perimeter and landed inside the massive structure, navigating its labyrinthine corridors with the help of stolen schematics. Inside the shipyard, the team encountered fierce resistance from Zephyr troops. Krinar, the Valrak warrior, led the charge, his sheer strength and ferocity carving a path through enemy lines. Meanwhile, Tarkin hacker Sorik worked to disable the shipyard's automated defenses. Ethan and Vorn planted charges on key production facilities, targeting the shipyard's power cores and assembly lines. The tension was palpable as alarms blared throughout the facility, signaling that the Zephyr had discovered the infiltration. As the team completed their mission, a new threat emerged. Overseer Zyril, the Zephyr commander overseeing the shipyard, clad in advanced combat armor and wielding devastating plasma weaponry, Zyril confronted the team in a brutal showdown. The battle pushed the team to their limits. Zyril's armor proved nearly impervious to their weapons, and his tactical prowess forced them to fight defensively. It was only through Sorik's quick thinking disabling Zyril's armor systems with an improvised EMP device that they managed to gain the upper hand. Krinar delivered the final blow, ensuring the team's escape. The destruction of the Delta Pixis shipyard was a significant blow to the Zephyr's war machine, delaying their production of warships and giving the Coalition much-needed breathing room. Yet the victory came at a cost. Several operatives were lost during the mission, and Ethan himself was injured in the final battle. Back aboard the HSS Ascension, Ethan addressed the Coalition. "We've struck a critical blow against the Zephyr, but our work is far from over. They will retaliate, and they will stop at nothing to destroy what we've built. We must remain vigilant, united, and unyielding." As the Coalition celebrated the success of Operation Iron Star, a new crisis loomed. Intelligence reports indicated that the Zephyr were amassing forces near Gamma Epsilon, a sector home to several Coalition-aligned worlds. The Coalition's resources were stretched thin, and the prospect of another major battle tested their capacity to respond. Ethan called for an emergency strategy session, knowing the Coalition's survival depended on their ability to adapt. As he prepared for the meeting, he reflected on the wars to not just on the Coalition, but on himself. Each decision carried the weight of countless lives, and the burden was growing heavier with every passing day. The war had entered a new phase, one defined not by singular victories but by the relentless struggle to hold the line against an enemy that refused to relent. Ethan knew the challenges ahead would require more than strategy. They would require hope, resilience, and a belief in the Coalition's vision for a better future. The Coalition's intelligence reports painted a grim picture. The Zephyr's forces were converging on Gamma Epsilon, a sector critical to the Coalition's infrastructure and morale. With its thriving colonies and key manufacturing facilities, Gamma Epsilon was a symbol of resistance against the Zephyr. Its loss would devastate the Coalition's war effort. Ethan Drake, still recovering from his injuries sustained during Operation Iron Star, faced the daunting task of organizing the sector's defense. The Coalition's resources were stretched thin, and the Sci-Fi's relentless attacks had begun to sow doubt among the Allied forces. Ethan convened a war council aboard the HSS Unity, gathering representatives from every Coalition species. The atmosphere was tense, with disagreements erupting over how to allocate resources and prioritize defense. The Ziffa are massing their largest fleet yet. Admiral Gorath of the Valrak growled, "We need every available ship in Gamma Epsilon, and leave other sectors undefended," countered Tarkin strategist Velis Oren. "The Sci-Fi want us to overcommit. If we abandon the periphery, they'll strike where we least expect." Ethan raised a hand to quiet the room. "The Zephyr thrive on division. We cannot afford to spread ourselves thin, nor can we let Gamma Epsilon fall. We must strike a balance." After hours of deliberation, Ethan proposed a comprehensive defense plan. 1. Strategic fortifications. Coalition engineers would construct orbital defense platforms around key planets in Gamma Epsilon, armed with long-range plasma cannons and automated missile systems. 2. Fleet deployment. The Coalition's main fleet would station itself at Eridanus III, the sector's central hub, ready to intercept the Sci-Fi's advance. 3. Decoy tactics. A smaller, cloaked fleet would create diversions in neighboring sectors, drawing Ziffa forces away from Gamma Epsilon. The plan was ambitious and risky, but it received the Council's approval. The Coalition began mobilizing its forces, with Ethan at the helm of the operation. As the Coalition prepared its defenses, the Ziffa launched a brutal campaign of terror in the outer reaches of Gamma Epsilon. Civilian transport ships were targeted, colonies bombarded, and critical supply routes severed. Refugees poured into the sector's core, overwhelming the Coalition's humanitarian efforts. Ethan worked tirelessly to maintain order, coordinating relief operations while overseeing the sector's fortifications. His leadership was tested as he navigated the complex web of military strategy and humanitarian aid, balancing the needs of soldiers and civilians alike. The Coalition's fleets were pushed to their limits as they intercepted Sci-Fi raiding parties, buying precious time for the defenses around Eridanus III to be completed. Mada arrived in Gamma Epsilon in force, a vast fleet of warships bristling with weaponry and escorted by swarms of bioengineered fighters. The Coalition fleet, though smaller, was bolstered by advanced Valrak shielding, Tarkin cyber warfare systems, and human ingenuity. The battle began with a series of skirmishes in the sector's outer regions. Coalition forces engaged the Ziffa in hit-and-run tactics, using the decoy fleet to sow confusion and disrupt their formations. Ethan monitored the battlefield from the HSS Ascension, coordinating movements and adapting strategies in real time. As the Zephyr pushed deeper into the sector, the Coalition fleet fell back to Eridanus III. The planet's orbital defenses, now fully operational, unleashed a devastating barrage of firepower, crippling several Sci-Fi capital ships. The battle begins. The Sci-Fi are, despite the Coalition's efforts, the Sci-Fi began to overwhelm their defenses. The battle reached its climax when the Ziffa deployed a massive dreadnought, its weapons capable of penetrating even the Valrak's advanced shields. Ethan devised a daring plan to neutralize the dreadnought. A suicide run by a heavily armed decoy ship loaded with experimental warheads. The ship would breach the dreadnought's shields and detonate its payload at point-blank range. The mission fell to Commander Lila Vaughn, who volunteered to lead the decoy ship's skeleton crew. Ethan protested, but Vaughn's resolve was unshakable. "You taught us to fight for something greater than ourselves," she said. "This is my chance to do just that." As the Coalition fleet engaged the Sci-Fi to buy time, Vaughn's ship made its run. The dreadnought's weapons tore into the decoy ship, but it reached its target. The warheads detonated in a blinding explosion, destroying the dreadnought and turning the tide of the battle. With their flagship destroyed, the Zephyr armada began to retreat. The Coalition pursued them, driving them out of Gamma Epsilon and securing the sector. The victory was decisive, but it came at a heavy cost. Ethan stood on the bridge of the HSS Ascension, watching as the surviving Coalition ships regrouped. The loss of Lila Vaughn and her crew weighed heavily on him, a reminder of the sacrifices required to achieve victory. In the aftermath of the battle, Gamma Epsilon became a symbol of the Coalition's resilience. The sector's rebuilding efforts were a testament to the strength of interspecies cooperation, with Tarkins providing advanced technology, Valrak warriors aiding in security, and humans leading the reconstruction. Ethan addressed the coalition in a broadcast that reached every corner of Allied space. Today, we proved that no force, not even the Zephyr, can extinguish the fire of unity. We fight not for power or domination, but for a future where no one lives in fear. Let this victory be a beacon of hope for all who stand with us. As the coalition celebrated its hard-won triumph, Ethan prepared for the challenges ahead. The war was far from over, and the Zephyr's desperation made them more dangerous than ever. But for the first time in months, he allowed himself to believe in the possibility of peace. The coalition's victory at Gamma Epsilon had given its members a rare moment to breathe, but the respite was short-lived. The Zephyr, though battered and humiliated, showed no signs of surrender. Instead, they doubled down on their guerrilla tactics, targeting civilian and military infrastructure in a desperate attempt to destabilize the coalition. For Ethan Drake, the war was evolving into a battle for survival, not just against the Zephyr, but against the fractures forming within the coalition itself. The coalition's leadership convened aboard the HSS Concord, a newly constructed command ship that symbolized their alliance. The meeting was tense, as representatives debated their next move. The Valrak pushed for an all-out offensive, eager to capitalize on the Zephyr's weakened state. The Tarkans, ever cautious, argued for consolidating their defenses and shoring up vulnerable systems. Humanity's delegation, still reeling from the losses at Gamma Epsilon, sought a balanced approach. Ethan, seated at the head of the table, listened as tempers flared. "Every moment we hesitate gives the Zephyr time to regroup," Admiral Gorath growled. "We must strike while they are vulnerable, and risk spreading our forces too thin." Tarkin strategist Velisor encountered. "A cornered enemy is the most dangerous. We should be preparing for their retaliation, not chasing them into the unknown." Ethan raised his hand, silencing the room. "We can't afford to act out of fear or aggression. We need to stay united. The Zephyr's greatest weapon has always been division. If we fracture now, we hand them the war." His words calmed the room, but the underlying tensions remained. Ethan tasked his advisors with formulating a strategy that balanced offense and defense, knowing it would be impossible to please everyone. As the council deliberated, an unexpected message arrived from the Scythari, a reclusive and technologically advanced species that had long avoided galactic conflicts. The Scythari offered an audience with the coalition, hinting at information that could turn the tide of the war. Ethan, intrigued and wary, led a diplomatic envoy to the Scythari enclave, a hidden station on the fringes of coalition space. The Scythari were enigmatic, their appearance humanoid but enhanced with cybernetic augmentations that blurred the line between biology and machine. The Scythari ambassador, Zalix 7, welcomed Ethan and his team into a chamber filled with shimmering holograms of the galaxy. The Zephyr's desperation has driven them to activate the relic of Kolsar, an artifact of immense destructive power, Zalix 7 explained. "This relic predates your coalition and even the Zephyr themselves. If they succeed in harnessing it, they will destroy not just your alliance, but entire star systems." The revelation sent chills through the delegation. The relic of Kolsar was the stuff of legends, dismissed by most as a myth. Yet, if the Scytharis intelligence was accurate, it posed an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. Ethan returned to the coalition with the Scytharis warning, urging immediate action. The War Council, initially skeptical, was swayed by Zalix 7's presence and the Scytharis' detailed intelligence. A new mission was approved: locate and neutralize the relic of Kolsar before the Zephyr could use it. The coalition dispatched reconnaissance teams to key locations identified by the Scythari. Ethan led one of the teams himself, traveling to Tarsis 4, a barren planet rumored to house ancient ruins connected to the relic. The journey to Tarsis 4 was fraught with danger. Zephyr forces patrolled the sector, forcing Ethan's team to rely on stealth to evade detection. Upon landing, they discovered a sprawling underground complex filled with traps and ancient mechanisms. Exploring the ruins, Ethan's team uncovered inscriptions and holographic recordings that revealed the relic's origins. It was a weapon created by a long-extinct civilization, designed to harness the energy of a star and channel it into a destructive blast. The Zephyr had uncovered the relic's location and were racing to activate it. As the team delved deeper, they encountered a Zephyr scouting party. The ensuing skirmish was brutal, but Ethan's leadership and the coalition's training allowed them to prevail. Among the captured Zephyr soldiers was a defector, Koresh, who offered critical intelligence in exchange for asylum. Koresh revealed that the relic was located on Vorax Mor, a rogue planet hidden in the depths of a nebula. The Zifar had already begun the activation process, giving the Coalition little time to act. Ethan returned to the Coalition with Koresh's intelligence, setting off a flurry of preparations. The mission to Vorax Mor would be the Coalition's most dangerous yet, requiring coordination between fleets, infiltration teams, and ground forces. The stakes had never been higher. As the Coalition mobilized, Ethan addressed the Allied forces. The Zifar seek to destroy everything we've fought for, not just our alliance, but the hope it represents. This relic is their last desperate gambit. We must rise together, stronger than ever, to ensure they fail. The Coalition's fleets began the perilous journey to Vorax Mor, navigating treacherous nebulae and avoiding Zifar patrols. Along the way, alliances were tested, sacrifices were made, and Ethan found himself grappling with the weight of his decisions. As Vorax Mor loomed on the horizon, Ethan knew the coming battle would define the future of the galaxy. Victory would mean securing peace, failure would bring unimaginable destruction. The Coalition's fleets emerged from the swirling mists of the Zinthor Nebula, revealing the rogue planet Vorax Mor in its grim majesty. The planet floated ominously, shrouded in perpetual storms and veiled in a halo of debris from shattered moons. Vorax Mor was not merely a rogue planet, it was a fortress, bristling with Zifar defenses designed to protect the relic of Kolsar. Ethan Drake, aboard the HSS Ascension, stood on the bridge with his senior advisors. Every monitor displayed tactical readouts, and every sensor buzzed with alerts from the Zifar's formidable defensive perimeter. "This is it," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "If we take Vorax Mor, we take their last hope of victory. If we fail, the galaxy burns." The Coalition's strategy hinged on dividing their forces. While the primary fleet engaged the Zifar Armada in orbit, an elite ground team would infiltrate the planet's surface to disable the relic. The stakes were monumental, and every detail had been meticulously planned. As the fleet approached, the Zifar Armada moved to intercept. Coalition ships, bolstered by advanced Valrak shielding and Tarkin cyber warfare systems, met them head-on. The battle was chaotic, with the vacuum of space lit by the glow of energy blasts and the explosions of destroyed vessels. Ethan commanded the fleet from the HSS Ascension, coordinating maneuvers to keep the Zifar forces off balance. His orders were precise and unwavering. But the cost of the battle was apparent, with every report of a downed Coalition ship. Meanwhile, the ground team, led by Ethan himself, descended to Vorax Mor aboard a stealth transport. The team included familiar faces: Krynar, the unyielding Valrak warrior Sorik, the brilliant Tarkin hacker, and Lila Vorn, whose tactical expertise was unmatched. Koresh, the Zifar defector, accompanied them, his knowledge of Zifar defenses invaluable. The descent was harrowing. Turbulence from the planet's storms battered their ship, and Zifar anti-aircraft fire filled the skies. With deft piloting, they landed in a narrow canyon outside the relic's location, a sprawling temple-like structure carved into the planet's surface. The team moved quickly, navigating the treacherous terrain and avoiding patrols. As they approached the temple, Koresh provided critical guidance, pointing out hidden defenses and guiding them through the labyrinthine corridors. Inside, the team encountered remnants of the ancient civilization that had built the relic. Murals depicted their rise and fall, warning of the weapon's catastrophic power. The deeper they ventured, the more the temple seemed alive, its walls humming with an energy that grew stronger as they approached the relic. Zifar forces awaited them near the core chamber, and the ensuing firefight was brutal. Krynar led the charge, his sheer strength and unyielding resolve inspiring the team. Sorik worked frantically to bypass the relic's defenses, using Koresh's insights to disable traps and unlock doors. As the team reached the core chamber, they found the relic a towering structure of crystalline spires and pulsating energy conduits. Zifar engineers had already begun the activation process, and the relic's power surged with alarming intensity. Ethan quickly assessed the situation. "Sorik, can you disable it?" he asked, his voice urgent. Sorik scanned the relic systems, his multi-limbed hands working furiously. "The Zifar have locked the controls. I can override them, but it will take time." Time they didn't have. Zifar reinforcements poured into the chamber, and the team was forced into a desperate defense. Ethan took charge of the perimeter, directing Krynar and Vorn to hold the line while he and Koresh protected Sorik. As the battle raged, Koresh made a startling confession. "There's another way to stop the relic," he said. his voice filled with hesitation. "But it requires someone to overload the core manually. It's a one-way trip." Ethan stared at Koresh, the weight of the decision bearing down on him. "No," he said firmly, "well, find another way." But as the Zephyr forces pressed harder, the team's position grew increasingly dire. Krynar, gravely injured but still fighting, turned to Ethan. "This is bigger than any of us," the Valrak warrior said. "He'll do it." Before Ethan could protest, Krynar charged into the heart of the relic, his massive form bathed in its blinding energy. With a roar, he struck the core, triggering a cascade of energy that disrupted the activation process. The relic began to collapse, its power spiraling out of control. Ethan and the team had no choice but to retreat. Carrying an injured Sorik, they raced through the temple as it crumbled around them. Koresh guided them to an emergency exit, and they barely made it to their transport before the relic's destruction unleashed a shockwave that engulfed the temple. As the team ascended to orbit, the Coalition fleet delivered a final blow to the Zephyr armada. The destruction of the relic and the retreat of the Sci-Fi forces marked a decisive victory for the Coalition. Back aboard the HSS Ascension, Ethan addressed the Coalition, his voice filled with both sorrow and determination. "Krynar's sacrifice saved us all. He reminded us that the strength of our alliance lies in the courage of individuals willing to fight for something greater than themselves. We honor his memory by continuing to fight for the future he believed in." The victory at Vorax Mall was a turning point in the war, but it came at a heavy cost. As the Coalition regrouped, Ethan reflected on the sacrifices that had brought them this far, and the challenges that still lay ahead. The war was not over, but for the first time, the Coalition had shown that even the Zephyr's greatest weapon could not extinguish the flame of unity. The destruction of the relic of Kulsar and the victory at Vorax Mall sent a clear message across the galaxy. The Coalition was a force to be reckoned with. However, the triumph was bittersweet. The loss of Krynar, the Valrak warrior whose bravery had turned the tide, left a deep void in the Coalition's morale. Ethan Drake, the Coalition's leader and reluctant hero, struggled with the weight of both the victory and its cost. The Zephyr's defeat at Vorax Mall fractured their once unified command structure. Reports from Coalition intelligence suggested that rival Zephyr factions were vying for control, creating an unprecedented opportunity for the Coalition to press their advantage. However, the internal tensions among the allied species threatened to undermine the Coalition's progress. Ethan, aboard the HSS Unity, convened a war council to discuss their next steps. The mood was somber, and the absence of Krynar was palpable. "The Zephyr are weak," said Admiral Gorath, the Valrak leader. "Now is the time to strike and end this war." Tarkin strategist Velis Oren countered, "If we overextend, we risk losing everything we've built." The Zephyr are desperate, but that makes them unpredictable. Ethan listened to both sides, his mind racing with possibilities. "We can't let our grief cloud our judgment," he said finally. "Krynar's sacrifice gave us this chance, but we must use it wisely. We'll launch targeted strikes to keep Zephyr off balance while consolidating our defenses." Before any new offensive could begin, Ethan insisted on honoring Krynar and the others who had fallen at Vorax Mall. A memorial ceremony was held aboard the HSS Ascension, broadcast across Coalition space. Leaders from every species gathered to pay their respects, and Ethan delivered a speech that resonated deeply with those watching. "Krynar's strength was not just in his body but in his heart," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. He stood for a future where unity triumphed over fear, where sacrifice paved the way for peace. Let his legacy guide us as we continue this fight for him, and for everyone who has given their all. The ceremony had a unifying effect on the Coalition, reinforcing their shared purpose. Ethan hoped it would be enough to weather the challenges ahead. As the Coalition regrouped, disturbing intelligence reports began to surface. A rogue Sci-Fi faction, led by Overseer Zintril, had seized control of a secret research facility on Kelvaris 7, a remote ice world on the fringes of known space. The facility was rumored to house experimental weapons and technologies far more advanced than anything the Coalition had encountered. Ethan knew the Coalition couldn't afford to ignore the threat. If Zintril consolidated power, the Sci-Fi could rally under his leadership and unleash these new weapons. The War Council agreed to launch a covert mission to infiltrate the facility and neutralize its assets. Ethan assembled a team of seasoned operatives, including Sorik, the Tarkin hacker whose skills had proven invaluable, and Koresh, the Zephyr defector who continued to earn the Coalition's trust. Joining them were new faces Lieutenant Alyssa Wren, a human reconnaissance specialist, and Tharix, a Valrak soldier determined to honor Krinner's memory. The journey to Kelvaris 7th was perilous. The icy planet was surrounded by asteroid fields and patrolled by heavily armed Zephyr ships. Using cloaking technology provided by the Sithari, the team evaded detection and landed near the research facility. The facility itself was a sprawling complex buried beneath the planet's frozen surface. Its corridors were heavily guarded, and the air was thick with tension as the team made their way inside. Koresh's insider knowledge proved crucial, helping them bypass traps and navigate the labyrinthine structure. As the team delved deeper, they uncovered horrifying evidence of the Zypher's experiments. Genetic modifications, advanced AI, and bioengineered weapons filled the labs. The facility was a testament to the Zypher's relentless pursuit of dominance, regardless of the ethical cost. At the core of the facility, they found the centerpiece of Zintril's research, a prototype neural devastator, a weapon capable of overriding the minds of entire populations. If completed, it could turn entire planets into unwilling servants of the Zypher. Zorik worked furiously to download the facility's data and plant a virus to disable its systems. The team's presence, however, did not go unnoticed. Alarms blared as Zephyr forces converged on their location. Overseer Zintril himself arrived, his presence commanding and terrifying. Clad in advanced combat armor and wielding experimental weaponry, he confronted the team in a brutal showdown. Zintril's tactical brilliance and physical prowess pushed the team to their limits. Ethan coordinated the battle, using every resource at their disposal to counter Zintril's onslaught. Koresh's knowledge of Zephyr technology and Alyssa Wren's quick reflexes proved invaluable, while Tharix fought with a ferocity that rivaled Krinar's. In a desperate gambit, Ethan lured Zintril into a trap, using the facility's own automated defenses against him. As Zintril's armor faltered, Tharix delivered the final blow, avenging his fallen comrade. With Zintril defeated, the team completed their mission, sabotaging the neural devastator and setting charges to destroy the facility. They escaped just as the complex erupted in a massive explosion, ensuring that the Zypher's research would never threaten the Coalition again. The mission to Kelvaris 7 was a critical success, further weakening the Zypher and preventing a catastrophic escalation. Ethan, though exhausted, allowed himself a moment of relief. The Coalition had faced the Zypher's darkest ambitions and emerged victorious once again. Back aboard the HSS Ascension, Ethan addressed the Coalition forces. "We've seen what the Zephyr are capable of, their cruelty, their desperation, but we've also seen what we're capable of when we stand together. This war isn't over, but today, we've taken another step toward the peace we all fight for." As the Coalition prepared for the next phase of the war, Ethan couldn't help but wonder what new challenges awaited. The galaxy was changing, and the battle for its future was far from over. The destruction of the Zypher research facility on Kelvaris 7 marked another significant victory for the Coalition, but the war was far from over. As the Coalition forces regrouped, new challenges arose, testing their unity and resilience in ways they hadn't anticipated. For Ethan Drake, the task of holding the Coalition together became as crucial as defeating the Zephyr. The Coalition's leaders convened aboard the HSS Ascension to discuss their next steps. Despite their recent success, tensions between the allied species continued to simmer. The Valrak demanded retribution for the Zypher's atrocities, urging an immediate offensive. The Tarkans, still wary of overextension, argued for a more cautious approach. Ethan stood at the center of the debate, his voice steady but firm. "We've come too far to let old divisions weaken us," he said. "The Zephyr are desperate, but that makes them more dangerous. We need to act, but we need to act smart." To address the rising tensions, Ethan proposed a series of joint training exercises to strengthen the Coalition's cooperation. These exercises, held on the recently liberated world of Eridanus III, brought soldiers and strategists from all species together, fostering mutual respect and understanding. As the Coalition trained, reports of the Zephyr's desperation grew more alarming. Intelligence indicated that they had begun deploying Scorch units, brutal strike teams tasked with destroying entire planets. To prevent them from falling into Coalition hands, the units left nothing but ashes in their wake, sparking terror across the galaxy. One such attack targeted the agricultural world of Draylan IV, a key supplier of food and resources for the Coalition. The Zypher's Scorch unit unleashed orbital bombardments, setting the planet's vast fields ablaze and leaving its population scrambling to evacuate. Ethan personally oversaw the Coalition's response, coordinating rescue efforts and dispatching a fleet to intercept the Scorch unit. The Coalition's forces engaged the Zephyr in a desperate battle above Dralon 4, managing to drive them away but at a heavy cost. The planet's agricultural infrastructure was decimated, leaving the Coalition with a critical resource shortage. As the Coalition struggled to address the fallout from Dralon 4, an unexpected message arrived from an unlikely source, the Zenthari, a nomadic and highly secretive species that had avoided the galactic conflict. The Zenthari offered their aid, claiming to possess advanced terraforming technology capable of restoring Dralon 4 and other devastated worlds. Ethan traveled to the Zenthari's hidden enclave on Velara Prime, a world shrouded in dense nebulae. The Zenthari were unlike any species Ethan had encountered. Their ethereal forms composed of semi-translucent energy and matter. They communicated through a combination of words and telepathic imagery, their presence both otherworldly and calming. The Zenthari leader Clayton explained their offer. "We have watched the galaxy's struggles from afar, unwilling to interfere. But the Zephyr's actions threaten the balance of existence. If your coalition is willing to protect our neutrality, we will share our technology." Ethan recognized the importance of the Zenthari's offer but also the risks it posed. The coalition needed their technology, but any alliance with the Zenthari could provoke the Zephyr further. Ethan returned to the coalition with the Zenthari's proposal, sparking heated debate among the leadership. The Valrak were suspicious of the Zenthari's motives, while the Tarkans saw their technology as a potential game-changer. Ultimately, Ethan's argument won the day. The coalition could not afford to reject the Zenthari's help. The Zenthari's terraforming technology was deployed on Dralon 4, accelerating the planet's recovery and restoring hope to its beleaguered population. The coalition's success in integrating the Zenthari's technology also bolstered morale, proving that unity could overcome even the direst challenges. As the coalition celebrated their newfound alliance with the Zenthari, disaster struck. A coalition supply convoy en route to Dralon 4 was ambushed and destroyed, with evidence pointing to Koresh, the Zephyr defector who had become a trusted ally. Koresh, detained aboard the HSS Unity, denied the accusations. "I would never betray the coalition," he insisted, his voice filled with anguish. "The Zephyr must have planted false evidence to turn you against me." Ethan was torn. Koresh had proven his loyalty time and again, but the evidence was damning. A tribunal was convened to determine Koresh's fate, and the coalition's trust in him hung by a thread. During the tribunal, Ethan uncovered a critical clue, a piece of Sci-Fi technology embedded in the destroyed convoy's wreckage, designed to mimic Koresh's signature. With the help of Sorik, the Tarkan hacker, Ethan exposed the Sci-Fi's deception, clearing Koresh's name and uniting the coalition against their enemy's psychological warfare. The events surrounding Koresh's trial solidified the coalition's resolve. The Zephyr's tactics had grown more desperate, but the coalition had proven their ability to adapt and persevere. Ethan used the incident to galvanize the alliance, urging them to prepare for the war's next stage. "The Sci-Fi want us to doubt ourselves, to turn on one another," Ethan said in a speech broadcast across coalition space. "But we are stronger than that. Every setback has made us more united, more resilient. Together, we will see this through to the end." The coalition began mobilizing for what would be their most ambitious campaign yet, a coordinated strike on the Zephyr's remaining strongholds, designed to end the war once and for all. As plans took shape, Ethan reflected on the sacrifices that had brought them to this point, and the battles still to come. The coalition, fortified by the Zenthari's terraforming technology, and emboldened by their recent successes, prepared for what would be the most ambitious campaign of the war, a coordinated strike on the Zephyr's final bastions of power. The plan, codenamed Operation Zenith, was daring and fraught with risks, but it held the promise of ending the conflict once and for all. Operation Zenith involved simultaneous assaults on 3 key Zephyr strongholds spread across the galaxy. Kelvaris Prime, a fortress world housing their primary fleet command. Vernexus, a shadowy station rumored to host the Zephyr's most advanced weapons research. And Draken Abyss, a massive asteroid base that served as a logistics hub. Ethan Drake, now a symbol of the coalition's unity, was tasked with leading the assault on Kelvaris Prime. Admiral Gorath and the Valrak fleet would target Vernexus, while the Tarkans, supported by Xanthari technology, would spearhead the assault on Drake and Abyss. Before the operation, Ethan addressed the Coalition's combined forces in a broadcast that reached every corner of Allied space. "This is our moment," he began, his voice resolute. "The Zephyr have terrorized the galaxy for too long, but their reign ends here. We fight not for conquest, but for a future where no species lives in fear. Together we will rise above the shadows of war and build a new dawn." The speech galvanized the Coalition, uniting soldiers and civilians alike. For the first time, Ethan felt a glimmer of hope that the war's end was within reach. Ethan's fleet emerged from hyperspace near Kelvaris Prime, greeted by an imposing armada of Zephyr warships. The Sci-Fi, aware of the Coalition's plans, had fortified the planet with advanced orbital defenses and a massive fleet commanded by Overseer Xyleron, one of their most cunning tacticians. The battle was fierce from the outset. Coalition ships, bolstered by Valrak shielding and Tarkan cyber warfare systems, engaged the Sci-Fi fleet in a chaotic melee. Ethan, aboard the HSS Ascension, directed the battle with precision, countering Xyleron's tactics at every turn. Despite the Coalition's coordination, the Sci-Fi's defenses proved formidable. Their warships, equipped with newly developed plasma disruptors, wreaked havoc on the Coalition's lines. Ethan ordered his fleet to fall back, luring the Zephyr into an ambush set by cloaked Xanthari ships. The gambit paid off. The Xanthari ships unleashed a devastating barrage, crippling several Zephyr capital ships and creating an opening for the Coalition to push through. With the orbital defenses weakened, Ethan led a ground assault on Kelvaris Prime's command center. The planet's surface was a hellscape of fortifications and war machines, and the Coalition forces faced fierce resistance from entrenched Zephyr troops. Ethan's team included Karesh, the redeemed Zephyr defector Sorik, the Tarkan hacker, and Alyssa Wren, the human reconnaissance specialist. Each brought unique skills to the battlefield, but the odds were stacked against them. As the team advanced toward the command center, they encountered a Zephyr bioengineered monstrosity, a towering creature designed to annihilate anything in its path. The battle against the creature was brutal, with Karesh and Alyssa working together to exploit its weaknesses while Ethan and Sorik disabled its support systems. The creature fell, but not without cost. Several Coalition soldiers were lost in the fight. Their sacrifice is a grim reminder of the war's toll. Inside the command center, Ethan confronted Overseer Xyleron, a figure as calculating as he was ruthless. The battle was not just one of strength, but of wits, as Xyleron used the facility's automated defenses to his advantage. Ethan, with Sorik's help, turned the Zephyr systems against Xyleron, disabling his defenses and forcing him into direct combat. The fight was grueling, but Ethan's determination and the Coalition's training proved superior. Xyleron fell, and the command center was secured. As the Coalition forces raised their banners over Kelvaris Prime, news arrived of similar victories at Venexus and Drake and Abyss. The Zephyr's empire was crumbling, their remaining forces retreating into the shadows. Yet, the victory was bittersweet. The losses were heavy, and the galaxy bore scars that would take generations to heal. Ethan, standing amidst the ruins of the command center, reflected on the war's cost and the fragile hope that peace could be achieved. Even as the Coalition celebrated, whispers of a new threat began to emerge. Zephyr remnants, scattered and leaderless, had started to form splinter factions. Some sought revenge, while others aimed to rebuild their empire. The Coalition's leaders debated how to address these factions, knowing that peace required more than just military might. It required rebuilding trust and stability across the galaxy. Ethan, weary but resolute, knew the Coalition's work was far from over. As he prepared for the next chapter of their journey, he resolved to honor the sacrifices that had brought them this far, and to build a future worthy of their struggle. With the fall of Kelvaris Prime, Venexus, and Drake and Abyss, the Zephyr's empire lay in ruins. The Coalition's victories had dismantled their infrastructure, scattered their fleets, and crushed their central command. Yet, even as the galaxy began to breathe a tentative sigh of relief, new dangers emerged from the ashes of war. Ethan Drake stood aboard the HSS Ascension, gazing at the holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers denoting Zephyr strongholds had diminished significantly, but scattered clusters of activity hinted at something troubling. Rogue Zephyr factions, leaderless but still dangerous, were regrouping. The Coalition's victory celebrations were tempered by the enormity of the task ahead. Entire systems lay devastated, their populations displaced or struggling to survive. Refugees overwhelmed coalition worlds, stretching resources to their limits. Rebuilding the galaxy would require as much effort as winning the war. Intelligence reports from coalition spies revealed the emergence of several Zifar splinter groups. These factions, led by ambitious warlords and surviving overseers, were carving out territories in lawless sectors. Among them, one name stood out: Vraxus, a brutal and cunning former general who had unified a large faction of Zifar forces under his command. Vraxus' faction, known as the Iron Blades, had already launched raids on coalition supply lines and claimed dominion over the Kraxel Verge, a cluster of systems rich in resources. His brutal tactics and refusal to negotiate made him a formidable adversary. The coalition's leadership convened aboard the HSS Unity to determine their response. The Valrak demanded immediate military action, eager to finish what they had started. The Tarkans, wary of overextending their forces, advocated for diplomacy with the smaller Zifar factions to isolate Vraxus. Ethan, ever the mediator, proposed a two-pronged strategy. "We cannot allow Vraxus to consolidate power," he said, "but we also can't afford to treat every Zifar faction as an enemy. Some of them may be willing to join us, or at least agree to a ceasefire. If we act wisely, we can prevent another full-scale war." The coalition reluctantly agreed to Ethan's plan, and preparations began for a campaign to stabilize the Kraxul Verge. Ethan would lead the diplomatic efforts, while Admiral Gorath and the Valrak fleet would prepare for a potential military confrontation. Ethan's diplomatic envoy, accompanied by a small escort of coalition ships, entered the Kraxul Verge under the guise of peace talks. Their first stop was Nithra 3, a barren world where a smaller Zifar faction had established a foothold. The leader of the faction, Zalek, was a pragmatic but ruthless former overseer who had grown disillusioned with the Zifar's methods. Ethan appealed to Zalek's sense of self-preservation, offering a truce and the coalition's support in exchange for information on Vraxus. Zalek, wary but intrigued, agreed to the terms. "Vraxus is no savior," Zalek warned. "He seeks only power. If you don't stop him soon, he'll rally the remnants and strike back harder than you can imagine." Zalek's intelligence proved invaluable. It revealed the location of Vraxus' main base on Thaldris 6, a heavily fortified world surrounded by asteroid fields and defended by a fleet of warships. As the coalition prepared for an assault on Thaldris 6, Vraxus struck first. The Iron Blades launched a surprise attack on Eridanus 3, a key coalition stronghold. The assault was brutal, with Vraxus forces deploying advanced weapons salvaged from the Zifar's former research facilities. Ethan, stationed on Eridanus III at the time, found himself thrust into the heart of the battle. The Iron Blade's precision and ferocity overwhelmed the coalition's defenses, forcing Ethan and his team to rally the defenders in a desperate bid to hold the planet. Ethan's leadership shone as he coordinated the defense, using every available resource to repel the attackers. Sorik, the Tarkan hacker, disabled the Iron Blade's automated drones, while Alyssa Wren led a daring counterstrike to reclaim key defensive positions. The turning point came when Koresh, the Zifar defector, confronted one of Vraxus' lieutenants in battle. Koresh's intimate knowledge of Zifar tactics and technology proved crucial, and his victory bolstered the coalition's morale. After hours of intense fighting, the coalition managed to repel the Iron Blades, but the cost was steep. Eridanus III was left scarred, its infrastructure in ruins and its people shaken. The attack on Eridanus III made it clear that Vraxus had to be stopped. Ethan convened a war council, bringing together representatives from every species to plan the assault on Thaldris 6. The operation would require unprecedented coordination, as the Iron Blade's defenses were among the most formidable the coalition had faced. "We've come too far to falter now," Ethan said. "This isn't just about defeating Vraxus. It's about showing the galaxy that we can rise above fear and chaos. Together, we will end this war once and for all." As the coalition fleets mobilized, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. The war had tested them in ways they had never imagined, but it had also forged unbreakable bonds between species that had once been enemies. The battle for Thaldris 6 would determine the fate of the galaxy, and Ethan knew the coalition would need every ounce of courage and resolve to prevail. The galaxy braced itself for what would be the coalition's most decisive battle yet. Thaldris 6, a barren, volcanic world surrounded by asteroid fields and treacherous gravitational anomalies, served as the headquarters of Vraxus and his faction, the Iron Blades. For months, Vraxus had rallied Sci-Fi remnants under his brutal leadership, turning Thaldris 6 into a fortress bristling with weaponry and defended by an armada of warships. The Coalition knew that the stakes of this battle extended far beyond a single world. If they succeeded, they would crush the last major Zephyr threat and bring the galaxy closer to peace. If they failed, the Iron Blades would rise as a new empire, plunging the galaxy back into chaos. The Coalition's fleets converged in the Karak sector, the nearest safe zone to Thaldris 6. For weeks, they had prepared for this moment, gathering intelligence, fortifying ships, and training soldiers for the coming siege. Ethan Drake stood aboard the HSS Unity, addressing the Coalition's leaders one final time before the assault. "We face an enemy that has nothing to lose," Ethan began, his voice resolute. "Vraxus and his Iron Blades will fight with desperation and brutality. But we are not just fighting for survival, we're fighting for the future. A future where our unity overcomes their fear, where we build rather than destroy. Let this battle be our defining moment." Admiral Gorath, the Valrak fleet commander, thumped his fist on the table. "Well, crush them, for Krinar and every warrior who gave their life for this cause." The Tarkans, led by strategist Velis Oran, presented their tactical analysis. The asteroid field surrounding Thaldris 6 made a direct assault difficult, but the Coalition's Zenthari allies provided advanced navigation systems that could guide the fleets through the hazards. The Coalition's strategy involved a multi-pronged assault, one non-orbital assault. The main fleet, led by Gorath, would engage the Iron Blades armada and clear a path to Thaldris 6. 2. Ground infiltration. Ethan would lead a strike team to infiltrate Vraxus command center and disable the planetary defenses from within. 3. Diversionary attacks. Smaller fleets using cloaked Zenthari ships would launch hit-and-run attacks on the asteroid field's outer defenses to divert enemy forces. Each phase relied on precise timing and coordination, and any misstep could doom the entire operation. The Coalition fleets entered the asteroid field, navigating the treacherous terrain with the help of Zenthari technology. As they approached Thaldris 6, the Iron Blades fleet moved to intercept, their warships bristling with advanced weaponry. The battle erupted into chaos. Valrak ships, shielded by their formidable energy barriers, clashed with Sci-Fi warships in brutal close-quarters combat. Tarkan cyber warfare teams disrupted enemy systems, creating openings for Coalition fighters to strike. Human engineers deployed experimental drone swarms, overwhelming the Iron Blades formations. Ethan, aboard the HSS Ascension, coordinated the assault, adapting to Vraxus' cunning tactics. The Sci-Fi forces used the asteroid field to their advantage, launching ambushes and hit-and-run attacks that tested the Coalition's resolve. Amid the orbital battle, Ethan and his strike team descended to Thaldris 6 aboard a cloaked transport. The team included Koresh, the Sci-Fi defector Sorik, the Tarkan hacker Alyssa Wren, the human reconnaissance specialist, and Tharix, the Valrak warrior determined to honor Krinar's legacy. The planet's surface was a hellscape of lava flows and jagged rock, with the Iron Blades fortifications towering above. The team landed undetected near a maintenance entrance and began their infiltration, using Koresh's knowledge of Zephyr systems to bypass security. Inside the command center, the team encountered fierce resistance. Automated defenses and heavily armed guards made every step a struggle. Sorik worked tirelessly to disable the systems, while Tharix and Alyssa held the line against relentless attacks. Reaching the heart of the command center, the team came face-to-face with Vraxus, a towering Sci-Fi warlord clad in experimental armor. His voice boomed through the chamber as he taunted the team. "You think your Coalition can survive?" Vraxus sneered. "Unity is a weakness. Fear, strength, and power, that is the true path." The battle against Vraxus was the fiercest Ethan had ever faced. The warlord's armor absorbed most attacks, and his weaponry unleashed devastating plasma blasts. Ethan directed the team with precision, using their combined strength to exploit Vraxus' vulnerabilities. Koresh, risking his life, managed to disable Vraxus' armor systems, leaving him exposed. Tharix charged forward, delivering a final, crushing blow that brought the warlord to his knees. Vraxus, defiant to the end, vowed that his death would not end the war. With Vraxus defeated, the team disabled the planetary defenses, allowing the Coalition fleet to strike decisively. Orbital bombardments targeted key installations, neutralizing the Iron Blades' infrastructure and breaking their resistance. As the remaining Zephyr forces retreated or surrendered, the Coalition secured Thaldris 6. The battle was over, and the iron blades were shattered. The victory at Thaldris 6 marked the end of the Zephyr's ability to wage war. For the first time in decades, the galaxy glimpsed the possibility of peace, yet the scars of the conflict ran deep, and the Coalition faced the daunting task of rebuilding. Ethan, standing amidst the ruins of Vrax's command center, addressed the Coalition forces. This victory is not the end, it is the beginning of a new era, one forged in unity and resilience. We have proven that together, we can overcome even the darkest challenges. Now, we must turn our efforts to healing the galaxy and ensuring that this unity endures. As the Coalition prepared for the challenges of post-war reconstruction, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The war had tested them in every way imaginable, but it had also forged unbreakable bonds between species that had once been enemies. The future was uncertain, but for the first time the galaxy had hope. The defeat of Vraxus and the dismantling of the Iron Blades marked a turning point in galactic history. The Zephyr, once a terrifying juggernaut, had been reduced to scattered remnants, and the Coalition stood triumphant. Yet the path forward was fraught with challenges. As the war ended, the real battle began, the battle to rebuild a galaxy scarred by conflict and mistrust. The Coalition's leaders convened aboard the HSS Unity, now repurposed as a center for post-war governance. Representatives from every allied species gathered to discuss the monumental task of reconstruction. The galaxy's infrastructure lay in ruins, its trade routes disrupted, and millions of civilians displaced. Ethan Drake, hailed as the architect of victory, opened the summit with a call for unity. "We've proven that together we can overcome the darkest of times," he said. "Now, we must channel that same determination into rebuilding what we've lost and creating something even greater." The Coalition established the Galactic Reconstruction Initiative (GRI), a massive effort to restore devastated worlds, rebuild infrastructure, and provide aid to displaced populations. Each species contributed resources and expertise, with the Zenthari offering their advanced terraforming technology to restore habitable planets. Even as the galaxy began to heal, mistrust lingered between former enemies. Some species resented the Zephyr remnants that had sought refuge within Coalition space, fearing they would reignite the conflict. Others, particularly those who had suffered the most, demanded harsh retribution. Ethan worked tirelessly to bridge these divides. He established a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, tasked with investigating war crimes and fostering dialogue between victims and perpetrators. The commission faced fierce opposition, but Ethan believed it was essential for lasting peace. "We cannot build a future on revenge," he argued. "If we're to move forward, we must confront the past with honesty and compassion." Among the Zephyr remnants, Karish emerged as a key figure. Having proven his loyalty during the war, he became an advocate for integrating peaceful Zephyr factions into the Coalition. Many Zephyr defectors sought to atone for their past actions, offering their knowledge and technology to aid in reconstruction. Karish addressed the Coalition Council, his voice filled with resolve. "We cannot undo the harm we've caused, but we can choose a different path. Let us help rebuild what we once sought to destroy." The Council, though divided, eventually agreed to accept the Zephyr's assistance. It was a contentious decision, but one that symbolized the Coalition's commitment to inclusivity and redemption. As reconstruction progressed, the Coalition began laying the foundation for a new system of governance. The Galactic Council, initially formed to coordinate the war effort, was transformed into a permanent body representing all member species. Each species held an equal voice, ensuring that no single power could dominate the galaxy. Ethan was unanimously chosen as the Council's first High Arbiter, a role that combined diplomatic leadership with oversight of the Council's decisions. Though reluctant to take on such a responsibility, Ethan accepted, knowing the galaxy needed a steady hand to guide it through the uncertain times ahead. Amid the hope and progress, whispers of a new threat began to emerge. Reports from the fringe systems spoke of mysterious attacks on isolated colonies, with survivors describing assailants who wielded advanced, unfamiliar technology. The attacks were surgical, targeting critical infrastructure and leaving little trace. The Coalition's intelligence network scrambled to uncover the source of the attacks. Initial findings pointed to a rogue faction known as the Eclipse Syndicate, a shadowy organization that had risen from the chaos of the war. Comprised of mercenaries, warlords, and disenfranchised Zephyr remnants, The Eclipse Syndicate operated in the lawless regions beyond Coalition control. As High Arbiter, Ethan found himself at the center of this new crisis. The Council debated how to respond, with some members advocating for immediate military action, and others urging caution. Ethan, determined to avoid a repeat of the past, sought a balanced approach. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions," he said. "The Eclipse Syndicate is a threat, but we must address it without losing sight of our commitment to unity and peace." Ethan authorized a covert mission to gather intelligence on the Eclipse Syndicate, led by Alyssa Wren and a team of elite operatives. The mission's goal was to uncover the Syndicate's motives, identify its leaders, and determine the extent of its capabilities. Even as the Coalition prepared to face this new threat, it celebrated the progress it had made. Devastated worlds began to thrive once more, and interstellar trade resumed. Fostering economic recovery, the GRI's efforts inspired hope across the galaxy, proving that cooperation could achieve what war could not. Ethan, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here, stood on the observation deck of the HSS Unity, gazing at the stars. The galaxy was still fragile, its wounds far from healed, but for the first time, it felt as though peace was within reach. "We've come so far," he said quietly to himself. "But the hardest work is still ahead." The war was over, but the battle for the galaxy's future had only just begun. The galaxy, though scarred by war, had begun to recover under the Coalition's leadership. Yet, as peace spread across the stars, a new shadow loomed on the horizon. The Eclipse Syndicate, a rogue faction born from the chaos of the Sci-Fi's fall, began its rise as a formidable force, threatening to unravel the fragile unity the Coalition had fought so hard to build. Reports from fringe systems painted a grim picture of the Eclipse Syndicate's operations. Small isolated colonies were disappearing without a trace, their populations either slaughtered or abducted. Advanced ships, equipped with stealth technology beyond even the Coalition's capabilities, struck with precision before vanishing into the void. Ethan Drake, now High Arbiter of the Galactic Council, faced the growing crisis with concern. Intelligence gathered by Coalition spies indicated that the Syndicate was not merely a band of pirates or warlords, it was a coordinated, technologically advanced entity with a clear agenda to uncover the Eclipse Syndicate's secrets. Ethan authorized a covert mission to infiltrate their ranks. The operation was entrusted to Alyssa Wren, the Coalition's top reconnaissance specialist, and a team of elite operatives, including Sorik, the Tarkin hacker, and Koresh, the Sci-Fi defector whose knowledge of rogue factions was invaluable. The team's journey took them to the lawless Vectra expanse, a region of uncharted space known for its asteroid fields and hidden smuggling routes. Disguised as mercenaries seeking employment, they made contact with a Syndicate recruiter on the desolate station of Shadow Spire. The infiltration was dangerous and fraught with tension. Alyssa's team played their roles perfectly, earning the Syndicate's trust and gaining access to their hidden base on Nix Prime, a rogue planet orbiting a dying star. On Nix Prime, the team discovered the full extent of the Eclipse Syndicate's power. The base was a sprawling underground complex, its walls lined with stolen technology from the Zephyr and other advanced civilizations. Among the artifacts were experimental weapons, stealth systems, and bioengineered soldiers designed for sabotage and assassination. The Syndicate's leader, a mysterious figure known only as Dusk, commanded with an iron grip. Dusk's identity was shrouded in secrecy, but their presence was undeniable. A calculated, charismatic strategist who wielded both fear and loyalty to keep their followers in line. Alyssa's team gathered critical intelligence, uncovering Dusk's ultimate plan, the Void Catalyst, a weapon capable of destabilizing entire star systems by collapsing their suns into black holes. The Syndicate intended to use the catalyst to hold the galaxy hostage, forcing the Coalition to dismantle itself and cede power to the Syndicate. As Alyssa's team prepared to exfiltrate with the intelligence, their cover was blown. A mole within the Coalition had alerted the Syndicate to their presence, and the base erupted into chaos as Syndicate forces closed in. The team fought their way to an extraction point, but the cost was heavy. Sorik was gravely injured while disabling the base's automated defenses, and Koresh was captured while holding off pursuing enemies. Alyssa managed to escape with the data, but the loss of Koresh weighed heavily on her and the team. Alyssa's return to the Coalition brought both relief and urgency. The intelligence she recovered was invaluable, revealing not only the Syndicate's plans but also the existence of multiple void catalyst prototypes in Syndicate-controlled space. Ethan convened the Galactic Council to discuss their response. The room was tense as the councillors debated how to confront the Syndicate without reigniting a galaxy-wide conflict. "We cannot allow the Syndicate to complete this weapon," said Admiral Gareth. "If they deploy even one catalyst, the consequences will be catastrophic. But we must act carefully," cautioned Tarkin strategist Velis Oren. "A direct assault could unite the splinter factions under the Syndicate's banner." Ethan, his voice steady, proposed a plan. "We'll strike their manufacturing facilities first, crippling their ability to produce the catalysts. At the same time, we'll launch covert missions to rescue Koresh and gather more intelligence on Dusk. This fight requires precision and unity." The Council approved the plan, and the Coalition began mobilizing its forces for a two-front campaign. The Coalition's first target was Erebus Forge, a massive asteroid facility where the void catalysts were being manufactured. The mission was a combined effort, with Valrak warriors leading the assault, and Zenthari ships using their advanced stealth systems to disable the Syndicate's defenses. Ethan coordinated the operation from the HSS Ascension, working closely with Alyssa and Gareth to ensure the mission's success. The battle was fierce, with the Syndicate deploying their bio-engineered soldiers and experimental weapons to devastating effect. Despite heavy resistance, the Coalition forces succeeded in destroying the Forge, delaying the Syndicate's plans and securing a critical victory. Yet, the cost was significant, with many lives lost in the assault. The destruction of Erebus Forge was a blow to the Syndicate, but it also escalated the conflict. Syndicate retaliatory strikes targeted Coalition supply lines and civilian worlds, spreading fear and chaos. The galaxy, still recovering from the Zifar War, teetered on the brink of another full-scale conflict. Ethan addressed the Coalition in a broadcast that reached every corner of Allied space. "The Eclipse Syndicate seeks to divide us, to prey on our fear and exhaustion, but we will not falter. Together, we faced impossible odds and emerged stronger. This is no different. We will face this threat with the same unity that brought us victory before." As the Coalition prepared for the next phase of their campaign, Ethan reflected on the challenges ahead. The Syndicate's strength lay not only in their technology, but in their ability to exploit the galaxy's fractured state. To defeat them, the Coalition would need to embody the very ideals it had fought for: unity, resilience, and hope. The battle against the Eclipse Syndicate had only just begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. For Ethan and the Coalition, the path forward was clear: to shine a light into the shadows and ensure that the galaxy's hard-won peace endured. The destruction of the Erebus Forge had crippled the Eclipse Syndicate's production of void catalysts, but it was far from a decisive victory. The Syndicate's retaliation had been swift and brutal, targeting Coalition supply lines and stirring unrest in fringe systems. As the galaxy trembled under the weight of this new conflict, Ethan Drake and the Galactic Council prepared for their next move. The Coalition spies worked tirelessly to gather more information about the Syndicate's operations and the enigmatic leader known as Dusk. Among the scattered reports, one piece of intelligence stood out: Koresh, the captured Sci-Fi defector, had been sighted alive on the Syndicate's primary outpost, Shadowspire Station, a hidden facility orbiting the black hole Vorlis Moor. Rescuing Koresh was paramount. Not only did he hold valuable knowledge about the Syndicate, but his survival symbolized the Coalition's commitment to unity and loyalty. Ethan authorized a high-risk mission to infiltrate Shadowspire Station, retrieve Koresh, and gather intelligence on Dusk's plans. The operation was entrusted to Alyssa Wren and a team of elite operatives, including Tharix, the Valrak warrior who had become a beacon of strength for the Coalition, and Sorik, the Tarkin hacker recovering from his injuries but eager to prove his worth. The path to Shadowspire was perilous. The station's location within the Vorlis Mawa region of intense gravitational anomalies and shifting asteroid fields made it nearly inaccessible. The team relied on Zenthari navigation technology to guide their cloaked transport through the treacherous terrain. As they approached Shadowspire, the station loomed like a spectral fortress, its structure illuminated by the faint, ominous glow of the black hole. Syndicate patrol ships crisscrossed the perimeter, forcing the team to proceed with utmost caution. Using advanced stealth technology, the team breached Shadowspire's defenses and entered the station's labyrinthine corridors. The air inside was oppressive, filled with the hum of machinery and the watchful eyes of syndicate guards. Every step was a test of their skills and resolve. Guided by intercepted schematics, the team located Koresh in a high-security cell. He was bruised but unbroken, his resolve unwavering despite weeks of captivity. "I knew you'd come," he said, his voice hoarse but filled with gratitude. As Sorek worked to disable the cell's security systems, Koresh warned the team of a looming danger. "Dusk knows you're here. This is a trap, but it's also an opportunity. The heart of their operation is just beyond this wing. If you act now, you can deal a serious blow." With Koresh freed, the team made the bold decision to press deeper into the station, aiming to sabotage the Syndicate's core operations. They encountered fierce resistance as Syndicate guards, and bioengineered soldiers poured into the corridors. Tharix led the charge, his ferocity unmatched as he cleared a path for the team. At the station's core, the team discovered a massive data hub, containing encrypted files detailing the Syndicate's operations and the true nature of the Void Catalyst project. Sorek began extracting the data, his multi-limbed dexterity working at a frantic pace. As the team held their ground, the station's alarms blared, and a chilling voice echoed through the corridors. "You've come far," Dusk said, their tone calm but menacing. "But your defiance ends here." Dusk arrived, their figure concealed by a sleek, shadowy exosuit that exuded an air of power and intimidation. They wielded advanced weaponry and appeared to anticipate the team's every move, countering their attacks with precision. The battle was grueling. Dusk's exosuit proved nearly impervious to conventional weapons, and their tactical acumen pushed the team to their limits. Sorek, still working on the data extraction, managed to disrupt the station's automated defenses, giving the team a fighting chance. It was Koresh who turned the tide. Recognizing a weakness in Dusk's movements, a delay in their exosuit's reaction time, he coordinated with Alyssa and Tharix to exploit it. Together, they delivered a devastating series of blows, forcing Dusk to retreat but not before vowing revenge. With the data extracted and Dusk temporarily repelled, the team raced to their transport as the station self-destruct sequence activated a final trap set by Dusk. Navigating the collapsing station and the chaotic gravitational pull of Vorless Moor, they narrowly escaped, their ship hurtling into hyperspace as Shadowspire was consumed by the black hole. Back aboard the HSS Ascension, the team presented their findings to Ethan and the Galactic Council. The data revealed the full extent of the Syndicate's reach, including hidden bases, supply routes, and the location of the final Void Catalyst prototype. Armed with this critical intelligence, the Coalition began planning its next move. The Council approved a two-pronged strategy, dismantling the Syndicate's supply network to weaken their hold on the galaxy, and launching a direct assault on the Void Catalyst facility to prevent its deployment. Ethan addressed the Coalition in a broadcast. "The Eclipse Syndicate thrives on fear and division, but we have faced fear before, and we have overcome it. This is no different. Together, we will bring light to the shadows and ensure that the sacrifices made for this peace were not in vain." As the Coalition prepared for its campaign, Ethan reflected on the challenges ahead. The Syndicate was more than an enemy, it was a reflection of the galaxy's scars, a reminder of the cost of war. To defeat them, the Coalition would need to embody the ideals it had fought so hard to uphold: unity, resilience, and hope. The battle against the Eclipse Syndicate was far from over, but for the first time, the Coalition had the tools and the resolve to face them head-on. The intelligence recovered from Shadowspire Station was a breakthrough in the Coalition's battle against the Eclipse Syndicate. Detailed schematics of their operations, secret supply routes, and hidden bases painted a vivid picture of an enemy that was both vast and insidious. However, the most alarming revelation was the confirmation of a nearly completed Void Catalyst, capable of plunging entire star systems into darkness. The data revealed that the Syndicate's operations were centered around three key locations: Bay Argent Nexus, a remote asteroid depot used for smuggling weapons and supplies across the galaxy; 2. Crimson Vale, a rogue shipyard in the storm-laden atmosphere of the gas giant Tarnis Phi, where the Syndicate was building advanced warships; 3. Nova Bastion, a fortified station hidden within a dense nebula, home to the final Void Catalyst prototype. The Coalition's War Council convened aboard the HSS Unity to formulate their strategy. Ethan Drake, as High Arbiter, listened as representatives from all member species debated their next move. We must dismantle their supply network, urged Tarkin strategist Velis Oren, pointing to Argent Nexus on the galactic map. Cut off their resources, and they'll weaken. No, countered Admiral Gorath of the Valrak. Every day we delay, the Void Catalyst edges closer to completion. We should strike at Nova Bastion directly. Ethan raised his hand, silencing the room. Well, do both, he said, simultaneous strikes. Each target plays a role in their war machine. If we act decisively, we can shatter their operations in one coordinated campaign. The Coalition split its forces into 3 fleets. 1. Task Force Argent, led by Velis Oran. This team would strike at Argent Nexus to destroy the Syndicate's supply depot and disrupt their logistics. 2. Task Force Crimson. Admiral Gorath would lead this assault on Crimson Vale, eliminating the Syndicate's shipyard and crippling their naval capabilities. 3. Task Force Nova. Ethan, joined by Alyssa Wren, Tharix, Koresh, and Sorek, would spearhead the assault on Nova Bastion to disable the Void Catalyst and confront the Syndicate's leader. Dusk, Task Force Argent launched their assault under cover of darkness, using cloaked Zenthari ships to infiltrate the asteroid depot. Velis Oren coordinated the strike with precision, leveraging the Tarkin's expertise in cyber warfare to disable the depot's defenses before Coalition forces descended. The depot was a hive of activity, with Syndicate smugglers scrambling to protect their supplies. Velis' team overwhelmed them with surgical strikes, destroying stockpiles of weapons and supplies. As the depot collapsed, Velis transmitted a single message to Ethan Argent. Nexus is no more. Task Force Crimson faced a more daunting challenge. The rogue shipyard, hidden within the storms of Tarnis V, was defended by a fleet of Syndicate warships and advanced turrets. Admiral Gorath, ever fearless, led the charge, his Valrak warriors inspiring the Coalition forces. The battle was brutal. Syndicate ships, equipped with experimental cloaking devices, ambushed the Coalition fleet, forcing Gorath to adapt on the fly. Using the storms to their advantage, Coalition ships launched coordinated strikes, disabling the shipyard's defenses one by one. As the shipyard erupted in flames, Gorath's triumphant roar echoed across the fleet. Crimson Vale is ours. Ethan's team approached Nova Bastion with a mix of determination and trepidation. The station, hidden within the swirling gases of the Orion Nebula, was a fortress of unimaginable proportions. Syndicate ships patrolled its perimeter, and its defenses bristled with cutting-edge technology. The Coalition's fleet, led by the HSS Ascension, engaged the Syndicate's forces, creating a diversion while Ethan's strike team infiltrated the station. Inside Nova Bastion, the team encountered relentless resistance. Syndicate soldiers and bioengineered creatures emerged from every corner, their attacks coordinated and ferocious. Tharix led the charge, his unyielding strength cutting a path through the chaos, while Sorek hacked into the station systems to locate the Void Catalyst. Reaching the core of Nova Bastion, the team stood before the Void Catalyst, a massive, crystalline device humming with malevolent energy. Dusk awaited them, their shadowy figure illuminated by the device's eerie glow. "You've come far," Dusk said, their voice echoing through the chamber. "But this is where your journey ends. The galaxy belongs to the strong, and you Coalition idealists are anything but." The battle against Dusk was the fiercest Ethan had faced. Their exosuit, enhanced since the encounter at Shadowspire, made them a nearly unstoppable force. The team fought valiantly, coordinating their attacks and exploiting Dusk's weaknesses. Koresh, fueled by a desire for redemption, managed to disable Dusk's suit with a well-placed strike. As the leader faltered, Ethan and Alyssa delivered the final blow, ending Dusk's reign of terror. With Dusk defeated, Sorek worked to disable the Void Catalyst. The device, however, had already begun its activation sequence. Realizing they had no time to shut it down, Ethan ordered the team to evacuate. Koresh stayed behind, volunteering to overload the catalyst's core manually, ensuring its destruction. "This is my chance to make things right," he said. "Go, finish what we started." The team escaped as the Void Catalyst detonated, its destruction consuming Nova Bastion in a blinding explosion. The Coalition fleet, watching from a safe distance, cheered as the station vanished into the nebula. The Coalition's simultaneous victories at Argent Nexus, Crimson Vale, and Nova Bastion marked the collapse of the Eclipse Syndicate. their network dismantled and their leader defeated. The Syndicate remnants scattered, no longer a unified threat. Back aboard the HSS Ascension, Ethan addressed the Coalition. "We have faced the darkness and emerged victorious. But this victory came at a cost. We honor those who gave their lives so that we could secure this peace. Let their sacrifice guide us as we rebuild the galaxy together." The galaxy, though scarred by war and conflict, began to heal. The Galactic Council turned its attention to reconstruction, ensuring that the lessons of unity and resilience would endure. For Ethan, the victory was bittersweet. He had led the Coalition through the darkest of times, but the weight of sacrifice remained heavy on his shoulders. As he gazed at the stars, he vowed to dedicate his remaining days to ensuring that the galaxy's hard-won peace would never falter. The shadows of the eclipse had been vanquished, but the light of hope would guide the galaxy into a new era. The defeat of the Eclipse Syndicate and the destruction of the Void Catalyst ushered in a fragile yet promising era for the galaxy. The Galactic Council, now a symbol of interspecies cooperation, turned its full attention to reconstruction, justice, and ensuring that such dark times would never return. With the war behind them, the Coalition faced an immense challenge rebuilding a galaxy left scarred by decades of conflict. The Galactic Reconstruction Initiative (GRI) expanded its efforts, deploying resources to devastated worlds and establishing trade routes to reconnect isolated systems. Ethan Drake, as High Arbiter, oversaw these efforts, traveling from system to mediate disputes, inspire hope, and ensure that the reconstruction remained a collaborative effort. One of his first stops was Eridanus III, a planet that had suffered greatly under both the Sci-Fi and the Syndicate. Its once thriving cities lay in ruins and its people struggled to rebuild. Ethan's presence rallied the population, and his promise of support reinvigorated their determination. "We will rebuild not just our homes, but our trust in one another," Ethan said during a speech to the planet's inhabitants. "This is your moment to rise, and the galaxy will stand with you." The Galactic Council began its evolution from a wartime alliance into a true governing body. Representatives from each species debated and crafted policies to promote peace, prosperity, and cooperation. Key initiatives included: 1. The Unity Charter, a formal document outlining the principles of interspecies cooperation, mutual defense, and shared governance. 2. The Peacekeeper Corps, a coalition-led force tasked with maintaining stability and responding to crises across the galaxy. 3. The Truth and Reconciliation Initiative, a program to address war crimes, foster healing, and integrate former adversaries into the new galactic order. One of the most contentious issues was how to deal with the remnants of the Eclipse Syndicate and the surviving Sci-Fi factions. Some council members demanded harsh punishments, while others advocated for rehabilitation and integration. Ethan took a balanced approach, emphasizing justice tempered with compassion. Trials were held for high-ranking Syndicate leaders, and those found guilty of war crimes faced appropriate consequences. Lower-ranking members, many of whom had been coerced into service, were offered opportunities to atone and contribute to the reconstruction. Koresh, who had sacrificed himself to destroy the Void Catalyst, became a symbol of redemption. His story inspired countless individuals across the galaxy, proving that even those who had walked a dark path could choose to fight for the light. With peace taking root, the galaxy's focus shifted toward exploration and innovation. The Zenthari, whose terraforming technology had been instrumental during the war, invited Coalition scientists to collaborate on new projects aimed at revitalizing barren worlds and advancing sustainable energy. The Coalition also launched the Stellar Horizons Initiative, a bold mission to explore uncharted regions of the galaxy and uncover its secrets. Ethan championed this initiative, seeing it as a way to unite the galaxy in a shared purpose and rekindle a sense of wonder and possibility. Amid the progress, troubling rumors began to surface. Explorers venturing into the far reaches of space reported strange phenomena, energy distortions, missing ships, and remnants of ancient advanced civilizations. The most concerning reports came from the Theta Expanse, a region of uncharted space. Coalition scientists speculated that the anomalies could be tied to long-lost technologies, or even remnants of the civilization that had created the Void Catalyst. Ethan convened the council to discuss these findings. "We cannot ignore these signs," he said. "If there's a new threat on the horizon, we must be prepared. But we must also approach it with caution and curiosity." seeking knowledge rather than conflict. The Council approved a series of exploratory missions to investigate the Theta Expanse, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the Coalition's journey. As the galaxy moved forward, Ethan began to consider his own place in this new era. The weight of leadership had taken its toll, and though he remained committed to the Coalition's vision, he felt a longing for a simpler life. During a private conversation with Alyssa Wren, Ethan shared his thoughts. "We've accomplished so much, but there's still so much to do. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm the one to see it through." Alyssa smiled. "You've given everything to this galaxy, Ethan, but you don't have to carry it alone. The Coalition is stronger than ever, thanks to you." Her words resonated with Ethan. He realized that his greatest achievement wasn't leading the Coalition, he was building a foundation strong enough to thrive without him. As the Coalition prepared to venture into the Theta Expanse, Ethan addressed the galaxy one final time as High Arbiter. Standing before a crowd of representatives and citizens, he spoke of unity, resilience, and the boundless potential of the galaxy. "Our journey doesn't end here," he said. "The stars hold mysteries yet to be uncovered, challenges yet to be faced, and triumphs yet to be celebrated. Together, we will meet them with courage and hope. The future is ours to shape." With those words, Ethan passed the torch to a new generation of leaders, confident that the galaxy's light would continue to shine brightly. The Theta Expanse, a vast and uncharted region of the galaxy, loomed on the edge of Coalition space like a dark frontier. For centuries, its mysteries had been shrouded by stories of vanished ships and ancient technologies, but with the galaxy now united under the Coalition, it was time to confront the unknown. The Stellar Horizons Initiative, approved by the Galactic Council in the aftermath of the war, focused its efforts on the Theta Expanse. Coalition leaders hoped that exploration would bring renewed purpose and unity, shifting the galaxy's attention from war to discovery. A fleet of cutting-edge exploratory ships was assembled, each equipped with the latest Zenthari navigation systems, Tarkin data analysis suites, and Valrak shielding technology. The flagship, the HSS Discovery, was commanded by Alyssa Wren, whose leadership during the war had earned her widespread respect. Though officially retired from active leadership, Ethan Drake joined the mission as an advisor, eager to witness the Coalition's new chapter and to ensure its success. As the fleet entered the Expanse, the familiar stars of Coalition space faded into the distance, replaced by a sea of unfamiliar celestial phenomena. Pulsars pulsed in irregular rhythms, vast nebulae glowed in strange hues, and gravitational anomalies bent light into kaleidoscopic patterns. Among the first discoveries was a massive Dyson fragment, a partial structure orbiting a decaying star. The artifact, clearly the work of an ancient and advanced civilization, showed signs of recent tampering. Scans revealed that it had been powered down long ago, but traces of energy signatures hinted that someone or something had been there recently. Alyssa convened her senior officers to discuss the implications. "If someone is tampering with artifacts like this, we need to find out who," she said. "The Theta Expanse might not be as empty as we thought." The fleet sent a probe into a dense cluster of gravitational anomalies, hoping to map the region. The probe transmitted data briefly before disappearing, its signal cutting out abruptly. Attempts to locate it proved futile, leaving the crew on edge. Sorik, now the lead scientist aboard the HSS Discovery, analyzed the probe's last transmission. "The readings suggest an artificial energy field," he explained. "Something in this region is capable of disrupting advanced technology. It could be natural or it could be deliberate." The incident raised questions about the safety of the mission, but Alyssa insisted on pressing forward. "We didn't come here to turn back at the first sign of danger," she said. "If there's a threat, we need to understand it before it finds us." Following the probe's trail, the fleet discovered a hidden planet cloaked in an energy field that masked it from sensors. The planet, later named Axion, was a stark contrast to the barren worlds they had encountered so far. Lush forests, crystalline oceans, and towering metallic spires suggested a thriving ecosystem and advanced engineering. A landing party led by Alyssa, Ethan, and Therix descended to the planet's surface. They found the ruins of a vast city, its architecture blending organic and technological elements. Signs of recent activity were everywhere: powered-down machinery, faint energy signatures, and pathways worn by recent foot traffic. While exploring the ruins, the team encountered their first sign of intelligent life sentinels, humanoid constructs that appeared to be guardians of the city. The sentinels were initially non-hostile, observing the team silently before retreating deeper into the ruins. As the team ventured further, they discovered an operational data hub within the city. Soric worked to access its systems, uncovering fragments of an ancient language and references to a civilization called the Axarian, who had vanished long ago. Before they could learn more, the sentinels reappeared, this time with weapons drawn. The team retreated under fire, narrowly escaping to their transport. Back aboard the HSS Discovery, Ethan reflected on the encounter. They're not just relics, they're protecting something or someone. The data retrieved from the hub revealed a startling discovery. The Axarian civilization had not vanished, they had gone into hiding. The logs referenced an event called the Eclipse Protocol, a last-ditch effort to protect themselves from an external force they described as the Endless. The Endless, according to the logs, were a nomadic, galaxy-spanning force driven by an insatiable hunger for resources and knowledge. They consumed entire civilizations, assimilating their technology and leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. Ethan addressed the Coalition fleet, his voice heavy with the weight of history. The Axarians' warnings can't be ignored. If the Endless are real, we may be looking at a threat far greater than anything we've faced before. Faced with the possibility of a new galactic threat, the fleet decided to split its forces. One group would remain in the Theta Expanse to continue exploring Axion and unravel the mysteries of the Axarians' disappearance. The other would return to Coalition space to warn the Council and prepare for a potential invasion. Alyssa, Ethan, and Soric stayed behind with the exploration team, determined to learn more. Their mission was clear: to uncover the truth about the Endless, and to find a way to stop them before it was too late. Amid the uncertainty, Ethan found solace in the Coalition's progress. The unity that had brought them through war now fueled their exploration, proving that the galaxy was stronger together. As he stood on the bridge of the HSS Discovery, watching the stars of the Theta Expanse twinkle like distant beacons, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy has always faced the unknown, he said to Alyssa, but we've always risen to meet it. This time will be no different. The Theta Expanse held its secrets tightly, but the Coalition was ready to uncover them. The future was uncertain, but the dawn of unity had given them the strength to face whatever lay ahead. The Theta Expanse, shrouded in cosmic anomalies and ancient mysteries, began to yield its secrets to the Coalition's exploratory fleet. Yet, with each discovery, the sense of unease grew. The mention of the Endless in the Axarian archives hinted at a threat of unimaginable scale, one that could challenge the fragile unity of the galaxy. While the fleet studied the ruins of Axion, Soric worked tirelessly to decode the remaining data from the operational hub. After days of effort, he uncovered a recording, a holographic message left by an Axarian elder. The elder's translucent figure flickered into view, its humanoid form adorned with intricate biomechanical enhancements. Its voice was melodic yet sorrowful, speaking in a language that Soric's algorithms partially translated. "We are the Axarian, stewards of knowledge and harmony. If you are hearing this, then our warnings have reached the light once more. The Endless will come, as they have before. They seek not conquest, but consumption. They devour the essence of worlds and civilizations, leaving nothing in their wake. We enacted the Eclipse Protocol to protect what little we could. If you hear this, prepare. They are already watching." The message left the team in stunned silence. The elder's words painted a picture of a relentless force, not bound by politics or greed, but driven by an insatiable need to consume. Shortly after the message was decoded, the HSS Discovery picked up a faint but consistent signal emanating from deep within the Theta Expanse. The signal was unlike anything the fleet had encountered, a rhythmic pulse that seemed both mechanical and organic. Alyssa Wren convened her senior officers to discuss the signal. "It could be Axarian in origin," she suggested, "or it could be something worse." Ethan, ever cautious, weighed in. "If it's tied to the Endless, we need to investigate, but we proceed with extreme caution. This isn't just an exploration anymore, it's reconnaissance." The fleet followed the signal through a treacherous path of gravitational anomalies and collapsing starfields. Along the way, they encountered remnants of other Axarian outposts, each offering fragments of their story. One such outpost contained a sprawling library encoded in crystalline structures. Soric and his team worked to extract the data, uncovering detailed records of the Axarians' encounters with the Endless. The logs described massive, self-replicating ships capable of consuming entire planets and integrating their materials into their own ever-evolving forms. They're not just a force, Soric explained to the crew. They're a system, a machine designed to consume and grow endlessly. After weeks of navigation, the fleet arrived at the source of the signal, a derelict Axarian station orbiting a dying star. The station, Eclipse Watch, appeared dormant, but was emitting the rhythmic pulse that had guided them. Alyssa led a landing party onto the station, joined by Ethan, Therix, and Soric. The interior was eerily intact, with Axarian architecture blending seamlessly with overgrown organic materials. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding. As the team explored, they found a central chamber housing a massive device, a celestial beacon. The device had been left by the Axarian to warn future civilizations of the Endless approach. Activating the beacon triggered a flood of information. Holographic star charts displayed the path of the Endless, revealing that they moved in cycles, devouring galaxies before retreating to regenerate. Their last recorded movement had been thousands of years ago, but the charts suggested their return was imminent. As the team absorbed the implications, the station system suddenly came to life. Lights flickered and a deep, resonant hum echoed through the corridors. Then came the voice. "You have awakened the dark. We are endless. We are hunger." The voice was not spoken, but felt a presence that resonated in their minds. The team realized that activating the beacon had drawn the Endless attention. A distant star field on the holographic chart began to pulse, indicating movement. "They know we're here," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the rising tension. "We've made contact." The station began to tremble as energy surged through its systems. The beacon's activation had triggered a failsafe. The station was set to self-destruct to prevent its technology from falling into the hands of the Endless. Alyssa and Therix led the team back to their transport, dodging collapsing corridors and automated defenses that had inexplicably reactivated. Soric worked frantically to extract as much data as possible from the station's core before they escaped. As the team boarded their ship and sped away, the station detonated in a blinding explosion, its remains swallowed by the dying star. Back aboard the HSS Discovery, the data retrieved from Eclipse Watch painted a grim picture. The Endless had indeed been dormant for millennia, but the beacon's activation had awakened them. Their path was clear. They were heading toward the galaxy. Ethan called an emergency meeting with the fleet's senior officers. "This changes everything," he said. "The Endless aren't a distant threat. They're moving now. The Coalition must be prepared for the fight of its life." A message was dispatched to the Galactic Council, detailing the fleet's discoveries and urging immediate action. The Coalition began mobilizing its resources, knowing that the Endless represented a threat far greater than the Sci-Fi or the Eclipse Syndicate. Back aboard the HSS Discovery, the data retrieved from Eclipse Watch painted a grim picture. The Endless had indeed been dormant for millennia, but the beacon's activation had awakened them. Their path was clear. They were heading toward the galaxy. Ethan called an emergency meeting with the fleet's senior officers. "This changes everything," he said. "The Endless aren't a distant threat. They're moving now. The Coalition must be prepared for the fight of its life." A message was dispatched to the Galactic Council, detailing the fleet's discoveries and urging immediate action. The Coalition began mobilizing its resources, knowing that the Endless represented a threat far greater than the Sci-Fi or the Eclipse Syndicate. As the fleet prepared to confront this new foe, Ethan stood on the observation deck, staring into the void. The stars seemed closer, brighter, yet more fragile than ever. "We've faced the darkness before," he said to Alyssa, who had joined him. "But this is something else, something ancient, something vast." Alyssa placed a hand on his shoulder. "We've always found a way, Ethan. Together, we'll find a way again." The Endless had awakened, and the galaxy stood on the brink of a new era, one defined not by conquest or survival, but by the question of whether unity and resilience could withstand the hunger of the void. The revelation of the Endless, an ancient and insatiable force, sent shockwaves through the Coalition. As the exploratory fleet returned from the Theta Expanse, the galaxy faced the sobering reality of a threat that could consume them all. For Ethan Drake and the Galactic Council, the question was no longer how to rebuild, but how to survive. The revelation of the Endless, an ancient and insatiable force, sent shockwaves through the Coalition. As the exploratory fleet returned from the Theta expanse, the galaxy faced the sobering reality of a threat that could consume them all. For Ethan Drake and the Galactic Council, the question was no longer how to rebuild, but how to survive. The message from the HSS Discovery reached the Galactic Council with alarming clarity. Holographic star charts, detailed accounts of the Exarians' final days, and the activation of the celestial beacon left no doubt the Endless were real. And they were coming. Ethan convened an emergency summit aboard the HSS Unity, drawing leaders from every coalition species. The chamber was tense as representatives debated the best course of action. "We must prepare our defenses," said Admiral Gorath, his Valrak instincts leaning toward immediate militarization. "The Endless will show no mercy, and we cannot afford to hesitate. The Axarian were advanced, perhaps more so than us, and they still fell," countered Tarkin strategist Valus Oren. "If we fight them conventionally, we risk repeating their mistakes. We need a strategy that combines defense with understanding." Ethan listened intently, then spoke. "We've faced overwhelming odds before, and we've prevailed by standing together. This time is no different. We will prepare our fleets, fortify our worlds, and seek every possible advantage, but most importantly, we will seek knowledge. If we are to defeat the Endless, we must understand them." The data retrieved from the Eclipse Watch station provided a glimmer of hope. Among the records were fragments of Axarian technology designed to counter the Endless. The Celestial Forge, a device mentioned in the logs, was described as a weapon capable of disrupting the Endless self-replicating systems. The problem: the forge was incomplete, its schematics fragmented, and its location unknown. Ethan tasked the Coalition's best minds with reconstructing the schematics, while the Zenthari offered their expertise in advanced energy manipulation to aid the effort. Ethan addressed the galaxy in a broadcast, transmitted to every corner of Coalition space. Standing against the backdrop of the Theta Expanse's holographic star charts, his voice carried the weight of determination. "The Endless are a threat unlike any we have faced. They do not negotiate. They do not relent, but neither do we. This is not just a fight for survival, it is a fight for everything we have built together. For every world, every species, and every life, we must stand united, or we will fall divided." The speech galvanized the galaxy, sparking a wave of volunteer enlistments, donations of resources, and unprecedented collaboration between Coalition species. The war that loomed ahead was not one of conquest, but of existence. The Coalition's outermost observation posts reported the first sightings of Endless vessels. The ships were unlike anything seen before, monolithic structures that appeared to grow and shift as though alive. They radiated a strange energy that disrupted conventional senses and rendered most weapons ineffective. At Outpost Orion 3, a small fleet led by Alyssa Wren intercepted a vanguard of Endless vessels. The battle was harrowing. Endless ships adapted to Coalition tactics in real time, countering every move with precision. Alyssa's leadership and the use of experimental Zenthari technology allowed the fleet to disable one Endless ship and recover its remains for study. The victory was costly with significant losses, but the wreckage offered valuable insights. Sorik, leading the analysis, uncovered that Endless ships were composed of biomechanical materials capable of self-repair and evolution. "This isn't just a fleet," Sorik explained. "It's an ecosystem. They grow, adapt, and evolve as a single entity. If we don't find a way to disrupt their cohesion, we won't last long." The Galactic Council ordered a massive defensive initiative, focusing on key worlds and trade routes. Valrak fortresses were deployed in strategic locations, their shielding technology enhanced by Zenthari energy fields. Tarkin cyber warfare units worked to develop countermeasures against Endless systems, while human engineers adapted existing weaponry to target biomechanical structures. Ethan personally oversaw the fortification of Eridanus III, a symbol of Coalition resilience. "This planet has withstood invasions before," he said during a press conference. "It will stand again, not just as a stronghold, but as a beacon of hope." Recognizing the scale of the threat, the Coalition extended its hand to non-member species, even those who had remained neutral during the Zifar War. Diplomatic teams reached out to the reclusive Kalthar clans, the enigmatic Vaelith monks, and even surviving Sci-Fi factions. Karesh, the Sci-Fi defector whose actions during the Eclipse Syndicate campaign had earned him widespread respect, led efforts to rally his people. The endless threaten all life, he said in a passionate address to a gathering of Ziffer leaders. This is our chance to prove that we are more than conquerors, that we can be protectors. As preparations continued, scouts reported that endless fleets were consolidating near the Dracos Nebula, a vast expanse of unstable space. Alyssa Wren led a reconnaissance mission to gather intelligence, risking everything to get closer to the Endless Armada. The mission yielded chilling visuals: thousands of endless ships, their formations impossibly precise, moving in unison like a living organism. At their center was a massive construct larger than any coalition station, emitting pulses of energy that resonated across the nebula. Sorik's analysis identified the construct as a core node, likely the command center for the endless fleets. If we can disable the core node, we might disrupt their coordination, he theorized. But getting close enough to do that would be suicide. Ethan, Alyssa, and the Council convened to discuss the next steps. The galaxy's fate rested on their ability to act decisively and intelligently. The Coalition had made progress in fortifying its defenses and rallying its people, but the endless advance was relentless. We've faced impossible odds before, Ethan said, addressing the room. This is no different. We have the knowledge, the unity, and the courage to prevail. Now, we just need the will to see it through. As the Coalition prepared for the inevitable clash, Ethan reflected on the stakes. The Endless were more than a physical threat. They were a test of everything the galaxy had fought to become. The battle ahead would decide not just the galaxy's survival, but its very identity. The storm was gathering, and the galaxy stood on the precipice of its greatest challenge yet, the Dracos Nebula. A swirling sea of unstable energies and gravitational distortions now housed the heart of the endless advance. Within its impenetrable depths, the Coalition had identified the core node, a massive, pulsating construct that served as the enemy's command center. The Coalition scouts, led by Alyssa Wren, had returned with invaluable intelligence, but their findings brought more questions than answers. The Galactic Council convened aboard the HSS Unity to determine their next move. The stakes were clear. The Endless Armada, unified and growing, would soon breach Coalition defenses unless the core node was neutralized. But the scale of the task was daunting. Sorik, the Coalition's foremost expert on the endless biomechanical technology, presented his findings. The core node isn't just a command center, it's a nexus. It amplifies their collective intelligence, coordinating their movements and adapting their strategies. If we destroy it, we can cripple their cohesion. Admiral Gorath, ever the warrior, was resolute. Then we strike it down. Every fleet, every ship, everything we've got. Tarkin strategist Velis Oren interjected. A full assault would be suicide. The nebula's gravitational anomalies would tear our fleet apart before we even reach the node. We need precision, not brute force. Ethan Drake, sitting at the head of the council, listened intently. Then we combine both. A diversionary fleet to draw their forces out, and a surgical strike team to infiltrate the core node and disable it from within. Ethan took personal charge of the strike team, assembling a group of the Coalition's best and most trusted operatives. Alyssa Wren, the Coalition's most experienced reconnaissance leader, whose knowledge of the Dracos Nebula was invaluable. Sorik, whose expertise in hacking and biomechanical systems would be critical for navigating the core node's defenses. Tharix, the Valrak warrior who had become a symbol of unyielding strength and resilience. Karesh, the Sci-Fi defector, whose redemption arc and unique perspective on adaptive enemies made him a vital asset. A Xanthari engineer named Zalith, whose advanced understanding of energy manipulation would be crucial for disabling the node. The team's mission was clear: infiltrate the core node, plant destabilization charges, and escape before the Endless could react. It was a mission with slim odds of success, but failure was not an option. While the strike team prepared, the Coalition mobilized a massive fleet under Admiral Gorath's command. The fleet would engage the Endless Armada near the outer edges of the Dracos Nebula, creating enough chaos to allow the strike team to slip through unnoticed. Gorath addressed the fleet before departure, his voice booming across the comm channels. Today, we stand as one galaxy against the darkness. This is our line. We hold it not just for ourselves, but for every world, every life, and every hope. Fight with honor, and know that your courage will light the way. The strike team departed aboard the HSS Phantom, a cloaked vessel equipped with Zenthari stealth technology. Navigating the nebula was a harrowing ordeal. Gravitational distortions threatened to tear the ship apart, and bursts of energy disrupted their systems. As the Phantom approached the core node, its massive structure came into view. The node was unlike anything the team had imagined, a vast, organic construct with tendrils of energy reaching out like veins, pulsating with a malevolent rhythm. Endless ships swarmed around it, their movements eerily synchronized. Alyssa guided the Phantom through a narrow window of opportunity created by the diversionary fleet. The team landed on the node surface, their ship hidden in the shadows of its massive tendrils. The interior of the core node was a surreal and hostile environment. Biomechanical walls shifted and pulsed, reacting to the team's presence. Strange organic drones patrolled the corridors, and the air was thick with an oppressive hum. Soric led the way, using his hacking tools to navigate the node systems and bypass security measures. "This place is alive," he muttered. "Every step we take, it's learning more about us." The team's progress was slow but steady, each member playing their role with precision. Tharix and Koresh handled threats with brutal efficiency, while Zalith used her energy-manipulating devices to disable environmental hazards. At the node's core, the team found a massive chamber housing the central conduit, the node's primary energy source. The conduit pulsed with blinding light, its tendrils extending to every part of the node and beyond, connecting the endless fleet. Soric worked to plant destabilization charges while the rest of the team defended the position. Endless drones and biomechanical constructs poured into the chamber, their attacks relentless and adaptive. Koresh, wielding a combination of Sci-Fi weaponry and coalition tactics, held the line with unwavering determination. "This is what we fight for," he shouted over the chaos, "to give the galaxy a chance." As Soric neared completion, the node reacted violently. The team was bombarded with images and sensations, visions of countless civilizations consumed by the endless. Through the psychic connection, they felt the presence of a vast intelligence, a cold, calculating force that identified itself as the Harbinger, the endless central consciousness. "You cannot stop us," the voice echoed in their minds. "You are but another spark to extinguish. The cycle is inevitable." Ethan pushed back against the overwhelming presence, rallying the team. "We're not sparks," he said defiantly. "We're the fire." With the charges planted, the team raced back to the Phantom, pursued by an endless wave of drones and biomechanical horrors. Tharix, injured but undeterred, covered their retreat, his strength a testament to the Valrak's warrior spirit. The team barely made it aboard the Phantom before the charges detonated. The core node erupted in a cascade of energy, its tendrils collapsing as the chain reaction spread. The endless fleet, deprived of their central coordination, faltered, their movements disorganized and chaotic. The coalition fleet seized the moment, pressing the advantage and driving the endless back into the depths of the Draco's nebula. For the first time, the galaxy had struck a decisive blow against the ancient force. Back aboard the HSS Unity, Ethan addressed the coalition. "Today, we proved that even in the face of the impossible, we endure. The endless are vast, but our unity is greater. This is not the end, but it is the beginning of their defeat." Though the mission was a success, the cost was heavy. Tharic's injuries left him near death, and the strain of the mission weighed heavily on the team. The Endless had been dealt a blow, but the Harbinger's chilling words lingered in their minds. The galaxy celebrated the victory, but Ethan knew the fight was far from over. The Endless were still out there, and the battle for survival had only just begun. The destruction of the core node was a pivotal victory for the Coalition. The Endless fleet, deprived of their central coordination, had retreated into the Draco's nebula, their once flawless unity shattered. Yet, the battle was far from over. The galaxy had gained precious time, but the Harbinger's presence and the revelations from the mission weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Aboard the HSS Unity, the Coalition celebrated the mission's success, but the mood was somber. The strike team returned battered and bruised, their resolve tested by the horrors they had faced. Tharix, the Valrak warrior, lay in the medical bay, his body recovering from grievous injuries sustained, while holding the line during the escape. Despite his weakened state, his spirit remained strong. "We bought the galaxy time," he told Ethan during a private visit. "Now it's up to us to use it." Soric, though physically unharmed, struggled with the psychic connection he had experienced within the core node. The visions of consumed civilizations and the Harbinger's voice haunted him. "The Endless aren't just machines," he explained to Alyssa Wren. "There's something more, something alive, intelligent and terrifyingly ancient." Ethan and the strike team presented their findings to the Galactic Council. The destruction of the core node had dealt a significant blow to the Endless, but the Harbinger's ominous message left little room for complacency. "You cannot stop us. You are but another spark to extinguish. The cycle is inevitable." Ethan addressed the council with determination. "The Harbinger's words are a challenge, a warning, but we've proven that even the most relentless force can be disrupted. The Endless are not invincible. Now we must prepare for their next move." The council approved a multi-pronged strategy. 1. Fortification, strengthening key worlds and trade routes to withstand future Endless incursions. 2. Research and development, accelerating efforts to complete the Celestial Forge, the Exarian weapon capable of disrupting the Endless systems. 3. Exploration, sending reconnaissance teams to the Dracos Nebula and beyond to monitor the Endless and gather intelligence. The Exarian archives had hinted at the existence of the Celestial Forge, a device designed to neutralize the Endless biomechanical cohesion. However, its location remained a mystery, and the schematics retrieved from the Eclipse Watch were incomplete. Soric led a team of scientists and engineers in decoding the Exarian data, cross-referencing it with Coalition records and Zenthari star charts. After weeks of painstaking work, they identified a potential location, Luminaris Prime, an ancient Exarian stronghold hidden within a remote star cluster. A fleet was dispatched to Luminaris Prime, led by Alyssa Wren and Ethan Drake. The journey would take them into uncharted space, but the potential reward, a weapon capable of turning the tide, was worth the risk. Luminaris Prime, when they arrived, was a breathtaking sight. A planet of gleaming crystalline structures, suspended in the orbit of a binary star system. It radiated an aura of both technological sophistication and eerie abandonment. The landing party found the surface to be a mix of ruins and operational systems. Automated defenses activated as they approached, forcing the team to navigate a gauntlet of traps and biomechanical constructs similar to those seen within the core node. Within the planet's central citadel, they discovered the heart of Exarian ingenuity, the Celestial Forge core. The device, though incomplete, held immense potential. Soric and Zalith worked to interface with the forge, extracting schematics and deciphering the processes needed to complete its construction. However, the team's presence did not go unnoticed. As the Coalition team worked, the planet's systems began to react. Lights flickered, and the crystalline structures emitted a low, resonant hum. Then came the voice, familiar yet chilling. "You think you can wield what you do not understand. The Endless are eternal. You meddle with forces beyond your comprehension." The Harbinger's presence was palpable, resonating through the team's minds and the planet's systems. Endless drones descended on the Citadel, their attacks swift and relentless. Ethan led the defense, coordinating the team's efforts to hold off the attackers while Soric and Zalith worked frantically to extract the forge data. Koresh fought valiantly, his knowledge of Endless tactics proving invaluable in predicting their movements. The team managed to secure the forge cores schematics just as the Endless drones overwhelmed their position. Alyssa ordered an immediate evacuation, and the team fought their way back to their transport. As they lifted off, the Citadel collapsed behind them, consumed by a cascade of energy unleashed by the Harbinger's interference. Aboard the HSS Phantom, the team regrouped. The mission had been a success, but the encounter with the Harbinger left a lingering sense of unease. "It's watching us," Koresh said grimly. "Every step we take, it's one step ahead." Back aboard the HSS Unity, the schematics retrieved from Luminaris Prime were analyzed and shared with the Coalition's engineers and scientists. The data confirmed that the Celestial Forge could be completed, but doing so would require resources and expertise from every member of the Coalition. Ethan addressed the Galactic Council once more, rallying them to action. "The Forge is not just a weapon, it's a symbol of what we can achieve together. The Endless may seem eternal, but our unity is stronger. This is our chance to turn the tide, to ensure that the galaxy's light endures." The Council voted unanimously to prioritize the Forge's completion. allocating resources and personnel to the project. The Coalition, though battered and weary, had found a glimmer of hope. As the Coalition mobilized to build the Celestial Forge, the galaxy braced itself for the inevitable counterattack. The Endless were far from defeated, and the Harbinger's influence loomed large. Yet for the first time, the Coalition had a tangible path forward, a chance to fight not just for survival, but for victory. Ethan, standing on the observation deck of the HSS Unity, gazed at the stars. The galaxy was at a crossroads, but his resolve remained unshaken. "We've faced the impossible before," he said quietly to Alyssa, "and we'll face it again, together." The battle against the Endless was far from over, but the Coalition was ready to meet the challenge. The final confrontation was on the horizon, and the galaxy's fate hung in the balance. The Coalition stood on the brink of an unprecedented achievement, the completion of the Celestial Forge, the Exarian-designed weapon capable of disrupting the Endless biomechanical cohesion. With the schematics recovered from Luminaris Prime, the galaxy's brightest minds worked tirelessly to bring the Forge to life. But time was running out. Endless fleets were regrouping, their advance imminent. The Celestial Forge was constructed on Eridanus III, chosen for its strategic location and fortified defenses. The planet had become a symbol of Coalition resilience, and its transformation into the Forge's construction site galvanized the galaxy's efforts. Coalition engineers and scientists collaborated with the Zenthari to overcome the Forge's complex requirements. The project was a monumental undertaking, requiring advanced energy manipulation, biomechanical integration, and materials harvested from deep within the Dracos. Ethan Drake remained at the forefront of the project, ensuring the Coalition's unity and resolve. "This forge is more than a weapon," he told the construction teams during a briefing. "It's a promise that we will not succumb to fear, that we will fight for every life, every world, and every hope." The Coalition's progress did not go unnoticed. As the forge neared completion, the Harbinger launched a bold counterattack. Endless fleets emerged from the Draco's nebula, targeting Coalition strongholds and supply routes in a calculated effort to delay the forge's construction. The most devastating strike came at Cygnus Outpost, a key logistics hub supplying materials for the forge. Endless vessels, their designs more advanced and adaptive than before, overwhelmed the outpost defenses. The battle was a grim reminder of the endless, relentless evolution. Ethan convened an emergency war council aboard the HSS Unity. "We can't allow the forge's construction to falter," he said. "We need to protect Eridanus III at all costs, but we also need to push back. We must show the galaxy that the Endless can be stopped." The Coalition deployed additional fleets to safeguard Eridanus III, while Alyssa Wren led a strike team to disrupt Endless supply lines. Their efforts slowed the Endless advance, but the Harbinger's presence loomed larger with each passing day. As the forge neared completion, the Coalition faced one last challenge: securing the Celestial Core, a critical component that powered the forge's unique capabilities. The core, according to Exarian records, was hidden deep within the Shattervale Abyss, a treacherous region of collapsing star fields and gravitational anomalies. Ethan, Alyssa, and the strike team embarked on the mission aboard the HSS Phantom, their journey fraught with danger. Navigating the Abyss required the Zenthari's most advanced navigation systems, and even then, the journey tested their ship and crew to their limits. At the Abyss's heart, the team found an ancient Axarian vault, guarded by automated defenses and endless drones. The battle to retrieve the core was fierce, with Tharix once again putting his life on the line to hold off the enemy. Koresh, drawing on his Sci-Fi expertise, disabled the vault's defenses, allowing the team to secure the core and escape. With the Celestial Core in place, the forge roared to life. Its crystalline spires pulsed with energy, emitting waves of disruptive frequencies that could unravel the endless biomechanical systems. The Coalition scientists conducted final tests, their results confirming what the galaxy had hoped: the forge was operational. Ethan stood with Alyssa and Sorik on Eridanus III's observation deck, watching as the forge's energy rippled across the planet's skies. "This is it," he said. "The turning point. The Endless thought they were unstoppable. They were wrong." The Harbinger, sensing the threat posed by the forge, directed its fleets toward Eridanus III. Endless ships, numbering in the thousands, surged from the Draco's nebula, their path cutting through Coalition defenses with terrifying efficiency. The Coalition prepared for what would be the galaxy's largest battle. Admiral Gorath rallied the fleet, his voice a booming declaration of defiance. They come for our hope. They come for our light. We will show them that our unity burns brighter than their darkness. The Endless fleet arrived in the Eridanus system, their arrival marked by the eerie glow of their adaptive ships. The Coalition, bolstered by Zenthari technology and the newly operational Forge, met them head-on. The battle was a chaotic symphony of light and destruction. Coalition ships deployed advanced weaponry, designed to exploit the Endless vulnerabilities, while the Forge emitted pulses that disrupted the enemy's cohesion. Endless vessels, though adaptive, struggled to maintain their unity under the Forge's influence. Ethan directed the Coalition's forces from the HSS Unity, his orders precise and unwavering. Alyssa led a daring counteroffensive, striking at key Endless ships to create openings for the Forge's energy waves. As the battle raged, the Harbinger itself appeared a massive, incomprehensible construct at the center of the Endless fleet. Its presence was overwhelming, its sheer scale dwarfing anything the Coalition had faced before. The Harbinger unleashed devastating energy blasts, cutting through Coalition ships with ease, yet the Forge's pulses began to take effect, causing visible disruptions in the Harbinger's structure. The Coalition pressed the attack, focusing their firepower on the ancient enemy. Ethan, realizing the battle's turning point had arrived, issued the final order. All forces converge on the Harbinger. This is our chance to end this. The Coalition's assault pushed the Harbinger to its limits, but the Endless entity began adapting, its defenses regenerating faster than the Forge could disrupt them. Koresh, witnessing the struggle, made a fateful decision. Taking command of a heavily armed Coalition vessel, he launched a direct assault on the Harbinger, using his knowledge of Endless systems to target its core. Koresh's sacrifice created an opening, allowing the Forge to emit a concentrated pulse that tore through the Harbinger's structure. The ancient enemy collapsed in a cascade of energy, its fleets falling into disarray. The destruction of the Harbinger marked the end of the Endless advance. The surviving fleets retreated into the Draco's Nebula, their cohesion broken. The Coalition had achieved the impossible, standing victorious against an enemy that had once seemed unstoppable. As the galaxy celebrated, Ethan addressed the Coalition from Eridanus III. Today, we prove that even the greatest darkness can be overcome by the light of unity. The Endless may return one day, but so will our resolve. This is not just a victory, it is the dawn of a new era. The battle had been won, but the galaxy's journey was far from over. The scars of war would take time to heal, but the Coalition had shown that together they could face any challenge. The galaxy had triumphed over the Endless, a force that had consumed countless civilizations before them. The destruction of the Harbinger and the retreat of the Endless fleets marked a turning point in galactic history. But victory came with a heavy price, and the Coalition now faced the monumental task of rebuilding and ensuring that such a threat would never arise again. The Battle of Eridanus III left the planet, and its surrounding system scarred but victorious. Wreckage from Endless and Coalition ships littered space, a grim reminder of the sacrifices made. On the surface, the Celestial Forge stood intact, its crystalline spires humming with residual energy from the final battle. Ethan Drake, Alyssa Wren, and the surviving members of the Coalition leadership convened on Eridanus III to address the aftermath. Though the Endless had been defeated, the cost of victory was staggering. Thousands of Coalition ships lost, countless lives sacrificed, and entire systems devastated. Koresh's sacrifice, in particular, weighed heavily on everyone. The Sci-Fi defector had redeemed himself through his heroic actions, becoming a symbol of the Coalition's ideals. A monument was erected in his honor on Eridanus III, inscribed with the words "For unity, for hope, for the future." The Galactic Council declared a week of mourning to honor those who had fallen during the war. Across the galaxy, memorials and ceremonies brought together species who had once been enemies, now united by shared loss and triumph. Ethan, addressing the galaxy from the steps of the Celestial Forge, delivered a heartfelt speech. Every star in the sky reminds us of those we have lost. They were not soldiers or warriors, they were defenders of life, protectors of hope. Their sacrifices have given us this moment, a chance to rebuild, to thrive, to ensure that their legacy endures. The speech resonated deeply, sparking a renewed commitment to unity and cooperation among the Coalition's member species. Though the Endless fleet had retreated, the Harbinger's final moments had left a chilling message. As it collapsed under the Forge's pulse, it transmitted a fragmented signal across the galaxy, one that Soric and his team were still deciphering. The message hinted at something larger, a network of Harbinger-like entities scattered across other galaxies, each controlling its own Endless fleet. The Coalition realized that while they had won this battle, the threat of the Endless might not be fully eradicated. Ethan convened the council to discuss the implications. "We cannot ignore this possibility," he said. "If the Endless exist beyond our galaxy, we must be prepared not just to defend ourselves, but to ensure that no civilization faces what we have." The council approved the establishment of the Stellar Defense Initiative, a program focused on monitoring deep space, expanding exploration efforts, and preparing for potential encounters with the Endless or similar threats. The Coalition redirected its resources toward reconstruction. The Galactic Reconstruction Initiative (GRI) expanded its scope, focusing on rebuilding devastated worlds, restoring trade routes, and providing aid to displaced populations. The Celestial Forge, no longer a weapon, was repurposed as a center for innovation and diplomacy. Its advanced technology, combined with Zenthari expertise, became a symbol of hope and progress. Coalition scientists used the Forge to develop sustainable energy solutions, terraforming technologies, and defenses against future existential threats. On Eridanus III, the Coalition established the Harbinger Accords, a series of agreements outlining the principles of galactic unity and the prevention of advanced weaponry misuse. The Accords were signed by every member species, cementing the Coalition's commitment to peace and cooperation. As the galaxy worked toward recovery, Ethan found himself reflecting on his journey. The once meek file clerk from Asteroid Belt Station 27 had become a leader, a symbol of resilience and unity. Yet, the weight of his experiences left him yearning for a quieter life. During a private conversation with Alyssa Wren, Ethan shared his thoughts. "The galaxy is in good hands now," he said. "The Council, the Coalition, they've proven they can stand together. Maybe it's time for me to step back." Alyssa, understanding his weariness, replied with a smile, "You've earned that, Ethan. But know this, what you've built will endure. That's your legacy." Before stepping down as High Arbiter, Ethan oversaw the launch of the Stellar Horizons Initiative, a mission to explore the uncharted regions of the galaxy and beyond. The initiative was both a tribute to those lost and a declaration of hope, a commitment to discovery, growth, and the pursuit of knowledge. As the first exploratory fleets departed, carrying representatives from every Coalition species, Ethan addressed the galaxy one final time. "The Endless sought to extinguish our light. They failed. Now, we move forward not with fear, but with curiosity and courage. The stars call to us, and we will answer. Together we will shape the future." Ethan retired to a quiet colony on the edge of Coalition space, where he could watch the stars and reflect on the journey that had brought him there. Though he had left the spotlight, his legacy continued to inspire a galaxy, united by the ideals he had championed. Meanwhile, Alyssa Wren, Soric, and Tharix remained active in the Coalition, guiding its efforts and preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. The galaxy was not without its dangers, but it was stronger than ever, ready to face whatever the cosmos might bring. The light of unity had prevailed, and the galaxy's story was far from over. The galaxy, scarred but resilient, entered a new era of unity and exploration. The battle against the Endless had not only secured survival but also cemented a legacy of cooperation and hope among species once divided by distrust and war. As the Coalition looked to the stars, it was clear that the story of the galaxy was far from over. This was just the beginning. Under the guidance of the Galactic Council, the Coalition began to flourish. Reconstruction efforts brought life back to devastated worlds, transforming barren landscapes into thriving ecosystems. Refugees returned home, and trade routes once severed by conflict became arteries of prosperity. The Stellar Defense Initiative expanded, deploying monitoring stations and exploration fleets to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The threat of the Endless lingered in memory, but the Coalition was determined to be prepared for any future challenges. On Eridanus III, the Celestial Forge became a hub of innovation and diplomacy. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats from across the galaxy gathered there, working to solve problems that transcended borders and species. The Forge, once a weapon of war, was now a beacon of hope. The launch of the Stellar Horizons Initiative was a turning point for the galaxy. Exploration fleets, equipped with the latest technology and carrying representatives from every coalition species, ventured into uncharted regions of space. Their mission was to seek knowledge, forge alliances, and ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. The first reports from these fleets spoke of breathtaking discoveries, planets teeming with life, remnants of ancient civilizations, and phenomena that defied understanding. Each discovery brought the galaxy closer together, reminding its inhabitants of the vastness of the universe and their shared place within it. Ethan Drake, the reluctant hero who had risen from obscurity to unite the galaxy, had retired to a quiet life on Leoris Edge, a tranquil colony near the galactic rim, surrounded by friends and loved ones. He found solace in the simplicity of everyday life. Yet, even in retirement, his influence endured. Ethan's story became a symbol of possibility, a reminder that greatness could emerge from the most unexpected places. His actions inspired a generation of leaders, explorers, and dreamers who carried his vision of unity and hope into the stars. One evening, as Ethan watched the twin suns set over Leoris Edge, Alyssa Wren visited him. Now a leader in the Coalition's exploration efforts, she brought news of the galaxy's progress. "They're calling this the Age of Light," Alyssa said with a smile. "Your age, Ethan." Ethan chuckled, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "It was never mine, Alyssa. It was ours. The galaxy chose light over darkness. I just helped it along." As the galaxy celebrated its newfound peace, a message arrived from one of the exploration fleets stationed at the edge of the Theta Expanse. The transmission was faint, distorted by the vast distances it had traveled, but its meaning was clear. "We are not alone." The message, accompanied by star charts and cryptic symbols, hinted at a civilization far beyond the galaxy's borders. It spoke of beings who had observed the Coalition's triumph over the endless and wished to make contact. The Council convened to discuss the implications of the message. For the first time, the galaxy faced the possibility of reaching out not in war, but in friendship. Ethan, though no longer a council member, was invited to share his thoughts. "This is the galaxy's next great step," he said, "not to conquer but to connect, to show that even in the face of the unknown, we can stand together." The council unanimously agreed to send an envoy, led by Alyssa Wren, to make first contact. It was a moment of profound significance, a declaration that the galaxy's light would not be confined to its borders but would shine into the void. As the envoy departed, the galaxy watched with anticipation. The Coalition had emerged from the shadow of the endless stronger and more united than ever. The journey ahead was uncertain, but it was filled with possibility. Ethan, standing on the shores of Leoris Edge, gazed at the night sky. The stars shimmered like beacons, each one a reminder of the struggles and triumphs that had brought the galaxy to this point. He smiled, knowing that the light he had helped ignite would continue to burn brightly. The galaxy's story was far from over. It was a story of unity, resilience, and hope, a story of a light that endured. And so the journey continued.
If you love this story, please hit subscribe, like, and share to explore more of my sci-fi adventures. And don't miss this next video. I know you'll love it.